Hey guys, welcome to part 5 of What If Neji Killed the Entire Hyuga clan. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 46. Training Montage 6. Brand New High Risk. In the distance, the sun rose over some mountain or another, reflecting off a nearby lake. Fresh dew was on the ground. Wind whistled through some trees, a river ran through the terrain. An artist could stare at a view like this for hours, mesmerized by the beauty of nature. This is boring as shit, remarked Uzumaki Naruto. Oh, I agree, Jiraiya of the Sannin responded, walking up behind him. But that makes it perfect. The two were saddled up with camping gear, or at least Jiraiya was. Naruto had dumped all his on-shadow clones not 2 hours after leaving Konoha and didn't seem to have changed policy anytime in the following 2 weeks. Perfect. Perfect how? Perfect because, other than us, there is not another human being in the surrounding 400 miles. Jiraiya explained. Which means you're probably not going to accidentally kill anyone. Jiraiya dumped his gear onto one of the clones, which it grumbled at but allowed. Naruto, we are on a training trip. A 3 to 4 year timeskip ridden training trip. Which means we have two main objectives. Number 1. Get your base form strong enough that the Akatsuki don't all stomp you immediately. Number 2. He fished a coin out of his pocket. Heads as Sage Mode, tails as Tailed Beast. He flipped the coin. It came up tails. Alright. Number 2 is teaching you how to use your Biju. You rigged that coin toss, didn't you? Naruto deadpanned. Then he caught up with what had been said. Wait, use my Biju. Are you insane? You're lucky, Jiraiya explained. Because your seal is so damn good you've had very limited contact with the Nine Tails except in emergencies. But most of the other Jinchuriki have had to find a compromise of some kind with their tenants. The Aikibi protected Gaara and gave him power, in exchange for Gaara brutally murdering people to entertain it. Naruto gaped. Wait, Gaara did what? He seems better now. It's cool. Jiraiya dismissed. A better example is B. Like the stripy insect. Like the letter. He's the 8 Tails Jinchuriki, the second most powerful, and he lives in Lightning Country. B and his Biju have a frankly astounding level of cooperation, presumably because the Hachibi is known to be the most passive of the Biju. Except maybe the Sanbi, who by all accounts is a massive pussy. Not to be confused with the Nibi, who is literally a massive pussy. You've lost me, Naruto confessed. The Nine Tails is a threat. Jiraiya summarized. It's a murderer. From all records it's the most vicious and confrontational of all the 9. But it's also the strongest. And if you can get through to it, it might be your biggest combat asset. You want me to talk to it? And ask it to help me fight? Naruto shook his head rapidly. Nah, remember that time it almost made me kill people? Or that other time it also made me kill people? Remember that time it helped you summon 2 of the strongest toads so you could fight Gaara? Jiraiya retorted. It tried to kill Gaara. And you stopped it. I'm not sure if it's the seal or pure willpower, but you've got more control over it than any 9 Tails Jinchuriki I've ever heard of. Even your mother. So you want me to, what, make a deal with it? Naruto wrinkled his nose. I want you to open communication. Jiraiya pacified. It's already proven it's willing to help you if you're going to die, so it may be willing to provide power a little more reliably. And if it won't, well, there's nobody who'll die in a crazy Biju rampage except me. Reassuring. Now you're starting to sound like Sasuke. You. Naruto shuddered. Fine then. I'm sure there's no way this can go wrong. In the distance, the sun rose over a nearby mountain, dappling through the gaps between the leaves. It was long miles from Konoha, and Itachi had set 10 shadow clones on watch around the surrounding 10 kilometers. Whatever this is, it had better be good, Sasuke said, coming to a stop in the clearing his brother indicated. It's good, Itachi replied. Or, well, it's not good, but it merits the effort. He walked up to a tree. With a blur, there was only half a tree left. I need to teach you about the ultimate weapon in an Uchiha's arsenal. The strongest, and the costliest, in more ways than one. He sat down on the stump, looking at his younger brother. All traces of the playful jokester were gone. Itachi's eyes were dark and hard. If I may. Before you went to fight Kimimaro, you saw something, didn't you? Something that hurt. Sasuke nodded, slowly. Kitamura, the spider guy. He said that the mind awakening pills worked by killing the one who took them, and 9 times out of 10 they don't come back. I watched Hinata take one and collapse. I thought so. Itachi held out his hands and gave one resounding clap. I'd like to congratulate you on exploiting the jammiest loophole in dojutsu history. Sasuke blinked. The what? The Uchiha's eye is an eye of pain. Itachi extrapolated. The Sharingan can be developed through practice, but it grows fastest and strongest through suffering, the kind of suffering that would make you cry. Literally, we believe. But what you have, and what I have, is something that extols an even heavier price. His eyes swirled, and again took on that strange pattern. The kaleidoscope copy wheel eye, the Mangekyo Sharingan. In the distance, the sun was probably rising over something or other, but Hinata couldn't tell because she was underground. The what Byakugan? She asked Orochimaru. I imagine this is going to require a bit of exposition. The snake Sanin leaned backwards. What do you know about the Sage of Six Paths? Incredibly powerful ninja legend. Hinata recalled. Created the 9 Biju. Progenitor of ninjutsu. Probably doesn't exist. But he probably does. Orochimaru grinned. And the brother he supposedly has is also probably real. Have you ever heard of the diverging bloodlines theory? No. Didn't think so. I came up with it. The theory goes that all bloodline limits of all kinds are caused by the diluted and varied genetics of the sage and his brother. Distant familial relations, going back hundreds or thousands of years. The strongest or purest bloodline descended from the sage is the Uchihas, and perhaps the Senjus. And the strongest descendants of the sage's brother are the Hyuga. In fact, I think you and poor Kimimaro may have a common ancestor if you look back far enough. Is there any evidence? Hinata asked. Dubiously. Some. Orochimaru replied. But I also have a theory that most of the sage's descendants live on the moon, so take what I say with a grain of salt. The point is that the Sharingan and Byakugan are linked more closely than you might imagine. Both ocular bloodlines, both with power sets designed specifically to counter each other. And both with the ability to evolve. Improve. This is no theory. Your much beloved cousin also has access to it. He nearly killed me with it, in fact, and while he was very reticent about it during our joint time at the Akatsuki, I have gleaned some information from him. It's that powerful. Exceedingly so. And I can unlock it. Orochimaru grinned. I certainly hope so, my dear. Hinata nodded. Tell me everything you know. They chose a certain valley as the location to make first contact. Naruto attempted to make a traditional meditation pose, but eventually got uncomfortable, gave up, and wound up slouched against a boulder. Jiraiya had moved out of sight to give him space to think, though Naruto had a sneaking suspicion it was more like retreating to minimum safe distance. Sighing, he closed his eyes. He had made out to Jiraiya as one of his excuses that he had no idea how to contact the 9 tails, but in reality he knew damn well how to access the chakra. It was like a coiled red ball of energy, right in his gut, behind the seal that Jiraiya had shown him. Sometimes it was quiet, sometimes it broiled like it was trying to burst out of him, but it was always there, just at the edge of his attention. And it terrified him. Every time he let it out, it was like opening floodgates that were incredibly difficult to close up again. He had channeled its power as intended once, when he had summoned Gamahiro and Gameiken, and even then it had hardly even made a dent in the amount available to him. It had felt like he could have summoned the whole of Mount Myoboku if he'd wanted to. And now Jiraiya wanted him to make friends with the thing. Great. Flinching a little, he reached out with his chakra for the ball of power. And gave it a little nudge. There was a flash, and his trousers were wet. Yura. He jumped up, shuddering on reflex, before realizing he was not outside in the glade anymore. A steady trickle of water ran in an aqueduct along the floor, which he quickly hopped out of, but everything else was made out of stone brick. It was lit yellow, dimly, with no real visible light source, and in front of him it stretched out for an indeterminate distance. It looked like a sewer. It smelled like a sewer. This place is nasty, he remarked, wrinkling his nose up at it. That was when he heard a dark, ominous chuckling from behind him. You agree? Strange. It's your mind, after all. Naruto gulped, and turned around. Thick red columns bisected the tunnel in that direction. Far enough apart that he could fit between them with no issue, with a sticky note that had lock scribbled on it pasted onto the central pillar. Something big stirred behind the bars. Naruto slowly edged forwards. Look, if someone had put me in charge of interior design, this place would look way cooler. I'm talking lava, cliffs, floating waterfalls, ramen shops. You are in charge of interior design. The voice replied, boredly. You just haven't bothered. A sewer in your mindscape is a big indicator of mental neglect. Yeah, well, if anyone had. Naruto paused. Hey, you're insulting me. It started laughing again. There was a loud booming noise, and two large, red, furred claws gripped two of the bars. Well, glad to see the standards for my Jinchuriki have dropped over time. Insulted, but glad. Two red eyes appeared, as its face came into view. After all, that should make it easier to take over and kill you. Kyuubi. Naruto responded, as if there was any doubt. Kit. Grinned the nine-tails fox. So good to finally meet you. Quote. Well, you're kinda bland. You, what? Naruto squinted up at his face. I mean, like, you're literally just a fox with nine tails. That's it. Shukaku was way cooler. What? No way. Shukaku is a punk bitch. Kyuubi snarled. Yeah, but he's got those cool blue tattoos everywhere and he's, like, made of sand, which is cool. Giant foxes are way cooler than sand tanuki. Well, you're red, which is cool, and I guess you've got those black markings on your face, but that's, like, it. Jiraiya says the two tails is made of blue fire, and that's awesome, but what have you got? Fur. Matabi's not even hot. Ooh. Steamy interbiju attractions, Naruto hopped closer. Come on then, who's the prettiest tailed beast? Gimme a top 9. I'm the prettiest. The fox froze. Looked down at him. You're mocking me, aren't you? And you've just shown me that you are not, in fact, a soulless remorseless killing machine. Naruto beamed. That should make this way easier. Kyuubi glared down at him. Quote. Yeah, we're done here. There was a jolt, and Naruto found himself back in the clearing again. He grinned. Hey, Uncle Pervert, you will not believe what just happened. So it does have a name. Sasuke continued to stare into Itachi's eyes. What do you mean? Heavier price. It's part of why I didn't want you to go to any of the other clan members with this. His older brother explained. In order to evolve the Sharingan into the Mangekyo, you must witness someone you care about die, and believe yourself responsible. For me, that was Uchiha Shisui. For you, it seems, that was Hyuga Hinata. That's awful. Sasuke shuddered. But why shouldn't I take it to the rest of the clan? Surely they wouldn't hate it that much that I cared about Hinata. Because we are both anomalies in the system. Itachi responded. We both developed our eyes by accident. The clan believes that attaining the Mangekyo is a deliberate act, and there is only one way to bring it about deliberately. They think you have to kill someone you love. Sasuke was horrified. That's, oh. They think you killed Shisui. Itachi nodded. Alright. I see why it should be a secret. Wait. Do any of the others? If there are any Uchiha alive with the Mangekyo, I don't know about them. Itachi answered. Before the wars, the murdering of brothers, sisters and spouses was painfully common, apparently. But those outsiders in the know hunted them down specifically, knowing their power. Nowadays the knowledge of the Mangekyo is hidden, and the practice is forbidden. So, what does it do? Sasuke couldn't help but ask. For it to require that much, it's got to be something broken. Itachi agreed. Busted. God tier. Up. If it gets out that you have this, you're going to be somewhere on the front page of the bingo book. Allow me to demonstrate. He kicked himself up and turned around to face the stump. Amaterasu. With very little pomp or ceremony, the stump set on fire. Black flames covered the entire thing, quickly consuming it and leaving nothing but ash. Is this what you did to Kimimaro? Itachi checked. Sasuke nodded, mutely. This is Amaterasu. The pinnacle of fire release. It allows you to immediately set fire to anything in your focal point. No charge up time, no travel time. The black fire will catch and burn almost anything, and will keep burning on the anything's remains for a full week unless you dispel it. You can theoretically miss if you can't keep track of the anything you're targeting, but, well, I have the Sharingan, which basically lets me see in slow motion. Sasuke finished. Kami above that's broken. You burned your chair. There was a flicker, and the stump was back to normal, Itachi sitting back down. It took Sasuke another second to catch it. That was a genjutsu. I will not use my powers so trivially, for reasons I'll explain later. One of my eyes holds Amaterasu, but my second holds Tsukiyomi. It is a genjutsu that requires actual eye contact, and it allows me to cause any illusion of any complexity for 2 seconds. I can make those 2 seconds be perceived for up to 72 hours by the victim. There is no way to escape it once it has been cast, that I know of, though it's possible someone else with the Mangekyo could resist it. I don't believe I need to demonstrate that one. Do I have it? Sasuke asked, trying not to drool. Perhaps. Itachi looked down. I don't have all the answers. Mangekyo powers are similar between close family members, but not identical. You may have something different, but don't worry, all the other abilities I know of are similarly ridiculous. Of course, once you have unlocked the power in each of your eyes, you get the Susanoo. The Whaaaaaaaaooh. Oh. The fact that this was probably an illusion was the only thing that stopped Sasuke running away. Itachi stood wreathed in a gigantic, glowing, orange skeleton. He who has the ability to help by all means. Itachi translated. This is one of the few things that can block Amaterasu, though since its transparent Tsukiyomi can hit you through it. It's a nigh impenetrable armor with multiple stages of evolution and increasing strength as you practice with it. And yes, you can cast other jutsu from inside of it. Put it away, please. Sasuke said, looking up at the skeleton's head. It seemed to be glaring at him. Then there was a blur, and it vanished. If I may. Sasuke started, unsure how to phrase it. How come the Uchiha haven't already, taken over the entire world? The Mangekyo cannot be used without consequence. Itachi explained. And this is the part you must know before taking these abilities out into combat. Your use of them is limited. Every time you cast a Mangekyo technique, your eyes are permanently damaged. Each use will bring you closer and closer to blindness, and once blind, all use of the Sharingan will be lost to you. It's worse if you use them multiple times in succession, even worse if you combine different powers together. Also, they're all incredibly chakra intensive and hurt like a bitch. How many uses do I have? Sasuke asked, worried. My uses of each technique are in the high single digits. Itachi replied, after some thought. I have already noticed significant deterioration. Fuck. Sasuke summarized. Fuck. Itachi agreed. Some levity returned to the clearing, and Sasuke allowed himself to relax. So what now? Now I train you. Itachi hopped back off the stump. We try to unlock whatever's in your other eye. We practice Amaterasu until you're certain you can bring it out reliably. We try and get you access to the Susanoo, and then you stop using them all until you're genuinely about to die. He paused, then walked up and put a hand on Sasuke's shoulder. This ability will allow you to contend with some of the most dangerous individuals in the ninja world. But if you start punching above your weight just because you have a panic button, you're going to get yourself killed. Please, try not to do anything stupid. Sasuke looked up at him and nodded, solemnly. I won't. Great. Now say that without your fingers crossed. Fine. I'll try. First. Orochimaru said. From my contacts in Konoha, I know that through killing a loved one, the Sharingan can be evolved into the Mangekyo Sharingan. This gives it greater ocular strength, 2 unique abilities that vary from person to person, and a powerful new form, the use of which gradually harms the user. It is possessed by my contact, one other I don't think I'll share, and Uchiha Itachi. Second. From my time knowing Neji. He possesses an evolved form of the Byakugan he calls the Gokei. Third. From you. He smiled at Hinata. I don't suppose you know anything about his arsenal that I don't. She nodded, slowly. Neji came into Konoha looking for Naruto a month or so ago, and got into a fight with Itachi. He used something called the Kokosora to put Itachi in a coma. He did something with white armor that let him resist one of Itachi's attacks, and he had something called the Hirage coma that let him access the Hyuga vaults, and remove Sasuke's curse mark. He removed my. Orochimaru stopped, and breathed in. Well, that makes sense. He claimed he had an easy method of separating a Jinchuriki from their Biju. We may be talking about the same power. So, two powers in a stronger form. Hinata understood. I see the links. Do you think I'll also have to kill a loved one? Because I'm quite low on options for that. Possibly, but I doubt it. Decided Orochimaru. The Byakugan is like the yin to the Sharingan's yang. If anything, your activation method is probably the opposite. So, to spare an enemy. What? I don't know. But for that, you have me. Orochimaru told her. I'm a scientist, dear. If there are chemical reasons behind the change, and you're willing to provide a few harmless samples, then I should be able to find it. From there will we get our answers. And hopefully, you can get the power yourself. Training and a dojutsu improvement. Hinata smiled. And all you want out of it is my service. Oh, I think I'll be quite satisfied. The snake replied, unsubtly. Now then, I imagine you need some sleep. I'll have Kabuto pick you a room. Though I imagine we'll have to move soon, given several of my soldiers that know about this base have been captured. Chapter 47. Training Montage 7. Cooperation. Orochimaru sipped his tea, reading the morning paper. Kabuto was buttering some toast across from him. From down the hall somewhere, there was a loud shriek that permeated the entire hideout. A few minutes later, a sopping wet and livid Hinata, covered entirely insufficiently by a towel, stormed in and slammed a pulverized hidden swamp boa down on the table. If I find, she hissed, any more snakes in my shower, then they will find themselves eaten by owls. She grabbed Kabuto's toast out of his hands, jammed it in her mouth, and stalked off. Kabuto grabbed another slice of bread. She'll get used to it, he remarked. You did. Orochimaru agreed, taking another sip. Water dripped slowly from the roof of the cave, collecting in a small pool on the floor. Down here, dozens of meters from the surface, was one of few places in Suna where natural water even appeared, and as it was a room appropriated for the cage's use, it was the only place it was allowed to collect in such a useless manner. Two boys sat by that pool, the air around them filled with sand particulates and hair-thin chakra strands. Is it working? Gaara asked, carefully scrutinizing the mechanism between them. Well, I can't see anything, so not yet. Kankuro replied. Are you sure you can't simply use the third eye and make it float into your eye socket? Gaara asked. Not unless I want to erode a hole in my skull. Kankuro explained. He had forsaken the tanuki suit he usually wore and was sat in casual civilian clothes. After the doctors had told him there was simply nothing they could do, he decided to keep the bandage across his eyes. Aesthetic. He'd told them. Let's try again. Gaara nodded. He carefully manipulated a small volume of sand from his gourd and poured it into the top of the simple puppet Kankuro had brought down for the exercise. It formed a perfect sphere. Kankuro reached out a set of chakra threads to animate the puppet, and more specifically the sand in its head. With one free hand, he began making seals. After a few seconds, the strands tightened, and the sphere of sand changed color to resemble an eye. Kankuro gasped. Progress. Gaara asked. It works. The puppeteer grinned. Under his instruction, the puppet looked around between them. Holy shit, I can see. Oh, damn, I look like crap. I didn't want to bring it up. Gaara admitted. It's the tiredness that does it. Do your nightmares continue? Kankuro grimaced. Images of a pale boy darting forwards and slashing intruding again into his thoughts. Yup. Hopefully now I have some new visual input they'll start to at least vary. How about you? Now that I am able to sleep, my dreams are pleasant enough. Gaara replied. Kankuro knew that ever since his encounter with, and thorough beating from, the Nine Tails, Shukaku had suddenly been more willing to cooperate with its owner. I'm sorry that I can't do more. Gaara spoke up, out of the blue, as Kankuro continued to take in his surroundings with the puppet. It's fine, he replied. You've done lots. Teaching me your floaty eye jutsu at all was more than I'd hoped. I'm trying to be better. The Jinchuriki spoke up. I don't. I'm trying to be kind. You're doing amazing, bro. Kankuro reassured. He turned around the puppet and grinned. You do look stupid in that hat though. Gaara tugged on his ceremonial garb with some distaste. It is not very practical, no. But I am still the youngest Kage in Suna's history, so it's important to maintain some traditions. Hey. Kankuro chuckled. Then he turned his head down to the puppet. I wonder if I can do this with something bigger. It was another few days before Naruto was able to get back in his mindscape. He'd tried to return immediately, but at first the Kyuubi had very clearly not wanted to talk. Eventually, though, the resistance lessened, and he was able to appear back in the Dankroom. Hey Kyuubi, he shouted, to the bars. You still there? You again. The fox appeared behind the bars and looked down at him. Have you come to annoy me some more? No, actually. Naruto shifted. I got kinda caught up in the moment, yesterday, but there was a reason I wanted to talk. Spill. I want to be able to access your chakra in battle. The Nine Tails looked at him for a moment. Quote. No. There was a jolt, and Naruto was back in the clearing. Quote. Asshole. Orochimaru was very surprised when he walked down one morning to find Hinata holding out a bright green box with a pink ribbon tied on the top. What? He uttered. Happy birthday, she said, with a smile. You what? Actually, now he thought about it, it was that time of year. Huh, who told you my birthday? He asked, aghast. I caught Lady Tsunade reminiscing about it one time before I left the village. Hinata admitted. She also mentioned something you might like. Orochimaru laughed, derisively, even as he tore the box from her and began ripping the wrapping paper open. That sentimental old goat. I bet she doesn't even remember what I owe my lord she does. He yanked the contents free of their container. Critters, creeps and crawly things, the official annual. Kabuto read, looking from across the room. Then, tilting his head, volumes 20 through 30. I got that book every year since it came out. Orochimaru stroked the cover, lovingly. That is a children's book. Kabuto deadpanned. I mean if you don't like it. Hinata reached out. No. Orochimaru clutched them to his chest. Awesome. Hinata clapped. I'll get you the next decade's worth next year. I figured there would be a bit of a backlog to work through since that one time you betrayed everything you loved. Great for some. Kabuto grouched. We don't all have birthdays. You don't. Hinata rounded on him. Alright, that's it, you're having a birthday. Is there any date you have a particular fondness for? It's a surprise then. Great. Sometime this year, Kabuto, you will have a birthday. Kabuto shook his head in silent surrender. Excellent. Now then. Hinata spun on Orochimaru. Where were we on that 2000 tortures jutsu? The next time Naruto was able to get into the mindscape, he stalked right up to the cage doors. Hey, what the hell was that for? One large eye opened. Oh, you're back. Presumably got some other reason for trying to see me this time. No, I'm still on about the power thing, don't kick me out again, we're not done. I think we're pretty done. Nah, Naruto pointed an accusatory finger. You gave me power to fight Gaara, didn't you? Alright, addendum. Kyuubi held up a claw. You can have as much power as you want when it comes to beating up the other Biju, but that's it. Wait, really? Naruto made a confused look. Why? Because I'm better than them. The Nine Tails explained. And I want them and everyone else to know that I'm better than them. I mean, surely you're only like a tiny fraction better than the 8 tails, though. Naruto pointed out. Nope. Exponential. Expa who now? The fox sighed. Okay, so there used to be the 10 tails, and then that got split into the 9-tailed beasts. But if you add up 1 through 9 you don't get 10. Yeah, that's because the 10 tails wasn't split evenly. The fox explained. It had a fraction of its chakra split off me, and then the same fraction was taken off what's left. Rinse and repeat until you just have a husk that you bury on the moon somewhere. I'm stronger than 8 by the same ratio that 8 is stronger than 7, and so on. Shukaku is nothing to me. I could beat up 1 through 4 without breaking a sweat. You're probably dropping some incredibly important history right now, but I really don't care, we're getting off track. Naruto dismissed. You also gave me chakra when we fought on the bridge. Why was that? You were about to die. Kyuubi replied. And if you die I die, and if I die everything sucks for a decade or so while I reform. Oh okay. Naruto blinked. Wait. If you'll give me chakra when I'm about to die, why won't you just give me chakra anyway? That way I'm less likely to die. Because. Kyuubi huffed. Alright. Tell you what. You lay all your cards on the table, and I'll do the same with mine. Sound fair? Sure. Naruto thought about it. Okay, so I want to get Hinata back, and I want to become Hokage, and I want to save the world, I think. And to do those things I need to get more powerful. Accessing the chakra of the giant monster capable of beating up an entire village sounds like a good way to do that, but I'm being kinda bogged down by A. I don't want you to break out and kill everyone I've ever loved, and B. I'm kinda iffy on using the power of the monster that, well, broke out and destroyed a whole village and killed the fourth Hokage and presumably also my parents. I guess ideally we could be friends and you could apologize and be redeemed and we'd work together. Wow. The Ninetales shook its head. That is the most idealistic blathering I've heard since the damn Senju that sealed me away the first time. Alright, cards on the table. I absolutely fucking hate you. And it's not your fault. Really, it's more because I have been stuck in your idiotic useless child body for the last 13 years in this damn cell without even enough influence to talk to anyone. It inhaled. Naruto was left completely nonplussed. Now your father literally sacrificed his soul to death itself to seal me into you, which means he got to make the seal however he wants. If he'd wanted I could have been stuck in here until you died and you'd have never noticed me. But he wanted you protected. So he put a little loophole in the seal that meant that giving you my chakra would weaken it, and allow me to gradually give you more chakra. Eventually I'd be able to speak to you, try and influence you, and hopefully break the seal altogether. It folded its paws in front of itself and rested its head on them. My main goal is to get out of you, plain and simple. If you're forced to desperately beg for help on death's door, it lets me flood you with power, and put more cracks in the seal than if I slowly feed it to you in a nice controlled manner. Also I have no interest in cooperating with you. Because I hate you. So like I said, we're done here. There was a jolt, and Naruto was back in the clearing. The glade was silent, with the exception of the regular thunking of blade into wood, and the clanging of metal on metal. Its lone occupant had given himself a foot square within which he could move, and a foot square target he could aim for, and was trying to pepper every tree nearby with ricocheted kunai. He was about halfway done when he noticed someone approach, and lean against a nearby tree. If you stand there for much longer, I'm going to impale you. Uchiha Sasuke said, with a level voice. Not at that angle you won't. Replied the newcomer. The trick is to use your upper arm more, lets you get a greater spin. Sasuke tried it, launching 2 kunai forwards, and was able to get a deflection so that one of them bounced almost 180 degrees backwards. Uchiha Fugaku caught it before it could pierce his skull. Not bad, son. I see Itachi has been teaching you well. Father. Sasuke turned to face him. It's good to see you. Likewise. Even if you were being sarcastic. Fugaku replied, pushing himself off the tree and walking forwards. I came to congratulate you on your performance in the cage discussions a few months ago. The discussions where I was diametrically opposed to you. Sasuke replied, confused. Those ones. Fugaku replied. You performed very well under pressure and showed great creativity and charisma, even if you were playing second fiddle somewhat to the Hyuga. Sasuke wanted to object to his father's dismissal of his teammate, but didn't really have much an argument. Officially she had betrayed the village. You didn't seem too happy with me at the time. Make no mistake, I have great respect for the Lady Tsunade. Fugaku refuted. We were on the same side during the Third Ninja War. I do believe she saved my life, in fact. But a courtroom is a different kind of war, one in which arguments are soldiers. If I had allowed that you sometimes made good points, the clan would have felt like I'd betrayed them. The clan, which wanted to take over Konoha. That isn't. Fugaku sighed. Make no mistake, son. My loyalty is to my clan, yes, but it is also to the village. I mean no harm to its people. You may not have experienced it, but you know what injustices we have undergone in this village. Injustices worthy of taking over the whole thing. While I personally, Fugaku stopped, and shook his head. No, I'm not here to argue politics with you. He twirled the kunai in his hands. I'm here on your mother's behalf. She wants you to come home for dinner tonight. Sasuke winced. I wasn't aware I was welcome. He hadn't been back into the Uchiha compound since his fight against Hinata, not counting the time he'd broken in with Itachi for some clothes and breakfast. Unwelcome. Why? Fugaku asked. His son coughed. This may sound strange, but I was under the impression you were upset I didn't kill my teammate. Upset you? Fugaku shook his head. I was upset you'd thrown the match, but if killing your teammate was the only alternative, I understand why you did so. Especially as that was proof enough you were stronger than her. If you had come to explain. Sasuke grimaced and looked away. Sorry. Just. Itachi thinks you're an asshole. What is it between you two? Fugaku looked down. Me and your brother disagree on a number of matters. I know he's been telling you things, but, well. He grimaced. I don't want to sound melodramatic with phrases like, seducing you away from me, but I know you're spending a lot of time with him and I don't want it to sour your opinion of the clan, or the family. He reached forwards and held out the kunai. Will you come home tonight? Please. What's Mum making? Sasuke asked, suspiciously. Lasagna. Alright, fine. Sasuke sighed and took the kunai. When do you want me? Dinner's on the table at 6. No. This one goes here, that one goes there. Karen put her fingers to the bridge of her nose to try and hold off a stress headache. I swear to Kami, you useless. I specifically put the chemicals in very strong glass vials, because I was worried you'd break them. But no, turns out I should have been more afraid about you putting them in the wrong. Am I interrupting something, dear? Karen froze. She schooled her expression carefully, and turned around with a smile. Orochimaru-sama. No sir, everything is fine, just sorting out a few organizational difficulties. I remind you again that you are more than welcome to imprison the guards should they prove themselves not to your liking. Orochimaru replied, walking in. I understand you are missing a few prisoners. A few. She winced. 118. It's not my fault. Looking up, she spotted a girl with dark blue hair stood at her master's side. Ah yes, introductions. Orochimaru gestured. Karen, this is Hyuga Hinata. She will be working with us from now on. Hinata, this is Karen. A recent acquisition of mine, she and her chakra suppression chains take charge of the prison here in the southern hideout. Chakra suppression chains. The Hyuga girl walked forwards. Her eyes, white and wide, seemed to be scrutinizing every part of Karen at once. Do you perhaps have Uzumaki heritage? Karen blinked. Yes, actually. On my mother's side. She paused, and took the time to analyze the girl's chakra. It was strange. Dark, yes, intense and strong, but there was a glimmer of light in it that seemed to be glowing brighter as time passed. Hinata mused. Then she turned back to Orochimaru. Can I keep her? What? If you want. Orochimaru shrugged. But only so long as it doesn't impact her usefulness. You have people missing. Hinata responded, stretching. I'll help Karen retrieve them. I can see some of the stragglers from here, actually. Excellent. Orochimaru beamed. Get it done. You have 6 hours. 3 hours. Got it. Hinata grabbed Karen by the hand and walked off. Hold on. Karen pulled her hand free when they were clear of Orochimaru's sight. Why do you want to have me? Why are you helping? Who are you? I'm a girl motivated by a childhood crush and the need to kill someone. Hinata replied, smiling at her. I'm sorry if my language was a bit simple back then. I want you because one of my best friends was also an Uzumaki. Your chakras look similar and I am terribly homesick. Oh. Karen responded, a little overwhelmed. Okay. That was very succinct. Thank you. Hinata replied. Now then. Let's go round up some probably innocent prisoners. The Chunin exams. The first real test of a prospective ninja's mettle. A life-threatening situation in which friends were pit against friends, where only the strongest, toughest, smartest could ever hope to survive, let alone succeed. Haku didn't know what all the fuss was about. Congratulations, Tamari. He called across to her, after the official ceremony was over and the ninja and viewers were free to spill into the streets. Haku. The blonde looked over to her and smiled. Well done to you too. That was a fun final round. She walked over with a wink. Glad I got my revenge after our fight 6 months ago. Home field advantage. Haku made a mock pout, before both laughed. And speaking of that fight, where's Konkuro? I heard you said he was improving. He is. Tamari reassured. He's got a new method that'll let him fight again, which is frankly insane, but he wanted to take more time to rebuild his repertoire before starting again. He's going to stomp the next exams, I'm certain, but for now he's still recuperating. Tamari cast her eyes outwards. Also speaking of our last fight, where's your boyfriend? Sighs. Haku paused and looked around. Missing. Again. Great. I don't know, he's probably reporting to his Dark Master. He's still doing that. Temari rolled her eyes. I'm trying to pry him away, give him time. Haku eyed her. I'm surprised Gaara actually passed Sai, considering. You know. Oh, my brothers are still planning to kill him. Temari said, breezily. I think it's a bonding exercise, they stay up late talking about it. But they're not gonna stop Sai being promoted, that wouldn't be fair. Hey. Haku was saved from that very awkward conversation by another very awkward conversation, appearing in the form of a busty redhead coming in from behind them. Well, if it isn't the celebrities of the day. I've been looking for you. Mizukage-sama. Haku addressed her, surprised. Call me Mei, please. The woman walked up with a wide smile that didn't show in her eyes. I'm surprised to see you're here. I don't think any of your genin made it to the finals. Haku trailed off, slightly regretting the trio of Mist Ninja he and Sai had taken out during round 2. Well, I figured that since I only recently acquired my position, it would be important to get my face out into the world. I don't quite agree with my predecessor's isolationist policies. Yeah, Yugura was a bit of an asshole. Haku agreed. I should know, I tried to assassinate him. Twice. Good attempts, both. Mei admitted. You don't have a problem with that. Haku checked, hesitantly. Well, I did it too. The Mizukage shrugged. The trick was catching him in his sleep so he didn't have time to use his tailed beast form. Turns out the whole time there was actually a genjutsu on him, so it wasn't really his fault, which was a little awkward. Nobody spotted that? Temari asked. Well, we had a guy with a Byakugan he'd stolen one time, ow. I think. But then Hyuga Neji showed up and killed him, so that was that. Mei sighed. Nasty. But I'm not here to talk about me, let's talk about you. The woman clapped her hands together. People are calling this the year of the kunoichi, you know. Look at who passed. Miss Haruno, Miss Ino, Temari here, you. He's a dude. Temari interrupted. Sigh. He's a dude. Haku interrupted. Wow, okay. Mei blinked. Well, they could have mentioned that. But I'm getting off topic. Haku dear, has it been mentioned to you how intriguing your position is? Not to my knowledge. Haku frowned. Odd, but understandable. I can imagine Leaf trying to keep some of these options from you. Mei squatted down to Haku's eye level, something he found really condescending. It's intriguing because you are a Mist citizen, from a Mist ninja clan, who currently wears the headband of a Leaf Chunin. She reached out and poked it. Haku scowled. Which means you are capable of applying for a senior position in both villages. Mei extrapolated, standing back up to her full height. I thought I was a missing nin. You were. I took the liberty of having that changed. It really shouldn't have applied at all, since you weren't officially a ninja, and it hardly matters since that old git Zabuza is dead. Temari looked between them, feeling thoroughly left out. Haku's fists tightened. Thank you for that. Is that all you came to say? No. I came to offer you work. Mei smiled again. Mist would be more than happy to hire your services, and due to your legal dubiousness it wouldn't even be, well, legally dubious. Not to mention, she leaned forwards, in a posture that quite prominently pushed her cleavage together. You'll find that there are plenty of perks for someone of your powers and lineage. Think it over, okay. With a wink, she walked off. Haku paused, looking across at Temari. Quote. Is it me or was she a massive bitch? Yeah. Temari agreed. Why did you attack the village? The Kyuubi opened one eye. What? At first, I thought you were an actual monster. Some sort of mindless animal. Naruto continued. He'd spent a full month training with Jiraiya, thinking on what the Nine Tails had said, before trying to come back. But you're not. You're an asshole, sure, but you don't seem like you'd attack Konoha just for kicks. But you have, apparently. Twice. I wanna know why. The Nine Tails regarded him for a long moment. Have you ever read 15 Reasons Why the Sharingan Can Go Fuck Itself, by Senju Hashirama? This is assuming you can read. Naruto glared but let it go. No, but Sasuke borrowed it from Itachi sometime after Christmas, and I've heard him complaining about it. My first Jinchuriki in Konoha read it once, we both had a whale of a time. The beast chuckled. Reason number 7. Someone experienced with the Sharingan can apply genjutsu with all the subtlety of a Biju bomb, and still get results. Even if you're prepared for it, they can make you stupid, or angry, or forget everything. They can make you obey. It glared at nothing in particular. They can make you wear their magic blue armor and try to kill their best friend. They can even make you lose your mind, and try to destroy a village even though you were planning on running away to your cave in the mountains. Wait. Naruto held a hand up. Are you telling me that the worst massacre in recent history was an accident? No. Growled the Kyuubi. Not an accident. I'm telling you that right now there are plenty of people I want to kill. But back then, the destruction of Konoha was not my will. It was the will of a man with an orange mask, and a Sharingan. There was a jolt, and Naruto was back in the clearing. Chapter 48. Training Montage 8. Sentimentality. Tsunade looked up from her desk suspiciously. Hidden stone. Yup. Sasuke was stood with perfect posture. May I ask why you chose this mission in particular? Sasuke shrugged. I just felt like this was a mission that would best assist the glorious village of Konoha. He maintained eye contact for a few more seconds before breaking. Also, one of the 7 swords of the mist is presumed to be there. The one that explodes. Does Mist know about this? Probably. It would be in the spirit of cooperation to let them reclaim their artifact. And it would be in the spirit of my growing sword collection to not do that thing. How many of those do you have? 4 of the 7 so far. Tsunade maintained eye contact for a few more seconds before smirking. Go. Yes, ma'am. How long have they been going at it for? Karen whispered. About 50 minutes. Kabuto admitted. I'm not sure how she's kept the cursed seal active for this long. Damn. The redhead reached over and grabbed a handful of Kabuto's popcorn. In front of them, through the large hole in the wall of the northern hideout, was a wide expanse of desert. Out on that desert was what could be accurately described as 2 kids with superhuman strength beating the shit out of each other. Hinata, in the second stage of her curse mark, was seemingly having the time of her life, grabbing her opponent and taking him on a joyride across the desert, slamming him into various stone structures as she went. Beneath her, Jugo, the primary experiment of this hideout, was roaring incessantly. He was fully transformed, with black skin and red eyes, and had completely lost his mind. Crashing into a boulder, he grabbed it in both hands and heaved, tearing it out of the floor and flinging it up to collide with Hinata. There was a flash of lightning, and she split the rock in 2, flying down to land in front of him. Woo. This is fun. She chuckled, before her eyes hardened. But seriously. With a blur, she appeared in front of Jugo, with a palm on his forehead. I will literally blow your brain out if you don't calm down. Jugo froze. Then, slowly, he began to transform back, the bestial features disappearing from his body until he was left in his usual form, with pale skin and bright orange hair. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I can't control it. The anger comes and then It's fine. Hinata reassured, removing her hand to pat him on the shoulder as she reverted back to her own base form. I know it's not your fault. She looked back where they'd come from and wrinkled her nose, waving at Karen. Do they really just keep you locked up in there? They do. He sighed. They don't have any other way to control me. Kimimaro was the only other person who was safe in my presence, except Orochimaru, of course. Ooh. Kimimaro. Hinata winced. He's, dead. Jugo exhaled. I know. He looked at her. He came to visit me before he went out to get you. Said you were his legacy. I don't know about that. You can control me. He told her. You're stronger than me. And with you I know that I won't hurt anyone if you don't want me to. With threat of death. She tilted her head. If it works. He chuckled. She shrugged. All right. I'll talk to Rochi, see if I can't get you freed. In the meantime though, she squinted, more for his sake than hers, at the hole in the wall. We'll probably have to find you a new cell. Kankuro stood, panting, amidst the remains of scrap metal and wood. From his right, there was a clapping sound, and an old voice. That was quite a show of temper, young man. Who are you and how did you get in here? He replied, unconcerned. My name is Chio, said the voice. And I go where I want. Tell me, Why did you just destroy all of your puppets? They're not much use to me anymore. I need to make new ones for my eyes to fit in. He replied, turning to face where she probably was. And these puppets failed me once before. So they need replacing. No sentimentality, The woman cackled. Do you throw out everything that doesn't serve a purpose? Not everything. Konkuro replied. Don't try to make everything a morale dilemma. Puppets aren't people. Most of the time. Chio muttered. What? Nothing. Did you know? My grandson created those puppets sometime before he left. Oh. Konkuro didn't feel particularly sorry. My bad. Would you like them rebuilt, or? Nah. The old woman chuckled. He's an asshole. So what are you going to do now? Make new puppets. Konkuro replied. Better ones. Ones I know I can trust. And if I fuck up with those, then I can blame myself. In that case. Chio chuckled. I may be able to help you. Sasuke was currently sat in a dark, dingy cave. A fire was too likely to attract attention, so as cold as it was, he would have to cope. That or attract bloodthirsty Miss Jonin he was technically at peace with. You've got it? Itachi asked, appearing in the cave a moment later. Got it. Sasuke grinned, tapping a ceiling scroll against his leg. Shibuki. Splash. I don't know what maniac decided to make a sword out of explosive tags, but I'm not complaining. The two sat in silence for a few minutes, but there was obviously something bugging Itachi. Eventually, he vocalized it. I hear you've been spending a lot of time back at the compound. With mum and dad. Yeah. Sasuke tensed. We made up. He's playing nice, then. Not sure what you mean. Sasuke shrugged, eyes on the scroll rather than his brother. We eat. We talk. A bit. It's chill. You know you can't trust him. What am I trusting him with? Sasuke bit back, a little angrier than he'd planned. I go home for dinner sometimes. That's it. You're letting him talk to you. Itachi replied, evenly. And I'm worried about what he says. You'd know what he said if you showed up. Sasuke remarked, bitterly. You want me to sit down and eat with him. Okay, enough of this. Sasuke span around to face his brother. What the hell is your problem with dad? Itachi tilted his head, in almost believable confusion. Other than the part where he tired to force his way into the old man's job. Nope. Sasuke cut across him. That's not it. You've had beef with him since long before that. About as long as I can remember. What is it really? Itachi sighed and looked down. Classified. How classified? Very. Alright then. Sasuke thought about it. Has he killed anyone innocent? What? Itachi looked at him like he'd grown an extra head. I don't want specifics. Sasuke held out his arms. You don't have to break confidentiality. Has dad killed any innocent people? No, not as far as I know. Itachi answered. Has he tortured any innocents? No. Has he done anything to jeopardize the well-being of Konoha? Itachi's mouth set into a line. No. Do you hate him because of some idealistic difference? Because you disagree about what's important? Itachi opened his mouth. Closed it. Sasuke flopped onto his back. Look. If you'd spent more than an hour around Naruto and Hinata before the team formed, you'd know they were not happy people. Probably still aren't. And neither of them had families. Period. He sat up. Well, I do, Itachi. And call me selfish, but I'm not about to give that up because you don't think dad is a good person. Itachi looked at him for a moment. Then sighed. You're right. I'm sorry. I've said I should stop trying to tell you how to live your life. I'll try to. He broke into a coughing fit. Sasuke started forwards in surprise as his older brother began retching up phlegm. Shit. Bro, what? I'm fine. Itachi waved him off, recovering somewhat. I must have picked something up. That's what I get for sneaking around in the cold for hours on end. If you say so. Sasuke shuffled backwards, trusting him. I've set a clone on watch, so I'm going to try and get some sleep. See you tomorrow. You too, little brother. Sasuke rolled over. He didn't see Itachi bring his hand away from his mouth covered in blood. No way. Gaped Hinata. Sasuke. You knew him? Karen asked, puzzled. Knew him. He was my teammate. The Hyuga laughed out loud. You have a crush on my teammate. I wouldn't, I mean. Karen blushed. The two were in Hinata's room. It was dark outside, Orochimaru's apprentice had wanted a sleepover and Karen had been too amused to refuse her. I'll have to introduce you to him. Hinata mused. Sometime, after I'm done here. This is assuming he doesn't immediately try and arrest you for working with Orochimaru, of course. Watching closely, Karen was able to catch it. Subtle, but there, Hinata's face took on a melancholic expression for just a moment. It happened every time her old friends were brought up. Hinata, Karen asked, tentatively. You know you don't always have to smile, right? Hinata tilted her head. I don't know what you mean. You're always smiling. Karen continued. And I don't know if you're trying to cheer us up, or there's something deeper to it, but you're allowed to be sad. Hinata kept up the mask for another few seconds before sighing, and dropping into a much more neutral, almost wistful expression. You know, someone once had to tell me that I was allowed to be happy. Seems I'm always one for extremes. Are you okay? Karen asked. No, she admitted. Not really. I'm practicing the Naruto method of acting happy so that even if it doesn't help me, I don't bring down other people. Well, it's working. Karen assured her. She grabbed her hands. Look, when I was young, my mom died. She used up too much of her chakra trying to heal the wounded from some war or another. After that, it became my job. And they thanked me when I healed them, blessed me, promised me everything for saving their lives. Right until the hospital got attacked, they all died, and I went off to be a ninja. The point is that since I lost my family, you're the only person who's ever been nice to me without expecting anything in return. Except those hugs you demand when you get really homesick. I'm sorry, your chakra looks like Naruto's. It was Hinata's turn to blush. It's fine. Karen waved her off. Look, you care. I don't mind if it's just an act, it feels the same to me. So I'm sticking with you, got it? Not Orochimaru, you. I don't. Hinata shook her head. Karen, I don't expect your service. I know. The redhead smiled. That's why you have it. And it means if you need to, and your teammates aren't there, you can come and talk to me, okay? Hinata smiled, and she knew this one was real. Thanks, Karen. I will. Haku let herself into the house, closing the door with a deliberate rattle. I'm home. Hey dear. Shizune shouted, from the kitchen. Dinner's fish pie, in 10 minutes. Were you able to get the wave fish? Haku called, taking off her shoes and leaving them by the door. Damn right I was. Called Tsunade, from the living room. Persuaded the fire daimyo to let Konoha in on the trade deals. You're welcome. Thank you. Haku walked in to crash on the sofa opposite the Hokage. He hadn't been formally adopted or anything, but Tsunade had realized soon after her promotion that he was still technically being held by T&I. Lacking an alternative, she had let Haku crash in the house she shared with Shizune, and eventually decided the dynamic was fun. Oh yeah, congratulations on your Chunin-ness, in case you didn't get that enough in Suna. Tsunade remarked. Thanks. Again. Haku paused. Did you notice that the Mizukage was present? Notice. Tsunade chuckled. It was hard not to. Bitch is almost as stacked as I am. What? Nothing. Why? Did you meet her? She came up and talked to me. Haku explained. Kept talking about my unique position and stuff. He wrinkled his nose. I think she wants me to betray Konoha. Sounds cool. Go ahead. Of course what? Go for it. Tsunade shrugged. Mist's a cool place. Very. Misty. Good mist to hide in hidden mist. This is a joke, right? Terumi wants me to go work for her. Tsunade acknowledged. Whole. Nother ninja executive ladder right there. Why would you? Haku narrowed his eyes. You're scheming. Now whatever could you mean by that? Tsunade was making a sly smile. Haku thought through it in his head. Executive ladder. May mentioned that I would be able to access senior positions in Mist. What did she? You sly dog. Haku gaped. You're setting me up to be Mizukage. That's a bold statement. I'm 15. Gaara's younger, and look at him. Gaara's a Jinchuriki. Haku shook his head vigorously. He nearly blew up Konoha on his own. I'm Jonin level at best. For now. Tsunade raised a finger. You have a powerful bloodline limit. The finger pointed towards the diamond shape on Haku's neck. And in a few years, that is going to mature. You've had years of unofficial training under a very powerful mist ninja, and you're about to get a load of official experience from 2 separate hidden villages, not to mention the personal tutelage you're getting from me. You have potential, mister. So you want me to, what, continue with the, assassinate the Mizukage, shtick? Haku asked. As much as Mei is a massive bitch, and admittedly she's trash compared to the rest of the cage, and you can technically challenge her to a duel to the death for the position, no, I don't want you to kill her. Tsunade stretched. But she gonna die someday. Ninja always do. Most don't live as long as the old man did. Or she'll be deposed in some other way. But if you're there to take her place. So what's in it for you in all of this? Haku looked at her suspiciously. Because being a puppet ruler for Konoha kind of sounds like bad practice. I don't want that. Tsunade rolled her eyes. I wouldn't mind friendlier relations with Kiri, sure, but mostly, well, it's your choice. I'm not going to make you do it if you don't feel like it, I just want what's best for you. Haku looked at her like she'd grown a second head, but Tsunade was still there, blushing slightly. I'll think about it. Haku allowed. It's something my old master was after for his whole life. And it's good to have something to strive for. But make sure not to knock up anyone over there until you've taken over. It was Haku's turn to roll his eyes. I'll try, mum. What was that, ma'am? I'll try, ma'am. I have the key to your seal. Kyuubi glared. You do not know how to leave well enough. Allo come again. Naruto held his hand out. A glowing key-looking thing appeared above it. Jiraiya has a toad that guards it. I can use it to strengthen and weaken the seal. So, why should I care? The fox waved a claw dismissively. You can get rid of my escape progress. It's not like you'd ever be stupid enough to weaken the seal. Naruto waited. The 9 tails looked at him. No fucking way. Powers. Fuck you. Do you want to get out? Do I? The fox had stood fully to attention now, looking down at him. You're crazy. I'll kill you if you let me out. You know that, right? Right now, sure. Naruto shrugged. I'm hoping we'll be able to work on that. You absolute. I'll weaken the seal. Naruto promised. If you're willing to offer me some chakra. If you're not going to be of any help, I'll tighten it up so I can't even hear you until I'm about to die. But, he grimaced. I really don't want to do that. Because it sounds like it's been really nasty for you while I was a kid and I don't want to do it to you again. You're feeling empathy. For me, you're really screwed up. But if you'll cooperate, I'll weaken the seal so you'll cooperate more. And eventually, when I'm confident you won't try to kill everything I care about or I'm strong enough to stop you, I'll let you go. You're lying. I don't usually do that. I've watched every prank you've ever committed. I don't lie about anything that's important, and I don't go back on my word. If we can work together, then eventually I'll free you. I'm still under your control. The fox growled. No matter how nice you are, the final decision will always be up to you. You're trying to guilt trip me and it's not working. Naruto deadpanned. I'll be an asshole if it stops you killing people. But I'm willing to give you a chance. Kyuubi glared at him suspiciously. Are you using genjutsu on me? I literally cannot cast genjutsu to save my life. HN. The fox leaned back, and mumbled, fine. What? Fine. It snapped. I'll lend you some power when you need it. Woo. A little. How much? More than you'll ever need until you're fighting people who are Cage Plus. If you want the really cool powers, you have to beat me up and take my chakra, good luck with that, and then finally release me and have me keep cooperating, good luck with that, but I doubt you'll ever need that much. You're the best. I know. The fox preened. Now, have you done anything with the passive chakra I've been feeding you? I can make the basic chakra cloak. Naruto answered. No tails appear, like one did when I was fighting Hinata, but it still makes me stronger and faster. I can mostly control myself when I'm doing that one, I'm just pretty annoyed at everything. Okay, so let's call that Kyuubi cloak version 0. Said the fox, taking on an almost lecturing tone. 1 through 3 tails of power is version 1, that's what you failed to defeat your teammate with. Do better next time, by the way. You're not allowed to lose while using my power anymore. And version 2 is 4 through 8 tails. Entering version 2 is a significant power boost, so naturally has a lot more risks, and each tail past 4 gives you more power and less self-control. What happens when I have all 9? Naruto asked, innocently. That would require you completely removing the seal, at which point right now I'd kill you. Kyuubi replied, nonchalantly. Oh. So, where to begin? The fox mused. I can output a bunch of chakra into your technique if you give me time to build it up, but if I try that for most of your attacks they'll explode in your hands. The summoning and shadow clones are lucky exceptions. The former was a massive skill-less chakra dump and the fatty has already explained the latter one's workings. I know. Let's try and get you into Two Tails version 1. Naruto shifted. Not that I don't appreciate the sudden burst of enthusiasm, but are you sure we want to start with further than I've ever gone before? You'll be fine, reassured the fox, with a very unreassuring grin. You don't have anything to get angry at and this time I'm trying to regulate it. It's just a matter of getting used to it and controlling it. Alright. Naruto sighed. This is me extending the initial olive branch. Hit me. The Kyuubi's form glowed. Red light suffused the water that flowed down the center of the sewer, approaching Naruto hungrily. Gulping, he stepped into the stream. With a jolt, he was back in the clearing. His form glowed, and he howled to the sky. After the fight of his life, Naruto stomped back into his mindscape, glaring daggers at the Kyuubi. You bastard. The fox raised an eyebrow. How did it go? I tried to kill Ero-sensei. He shouted. Did you win? No. I thought I made it clear that. I went insane. Completely nuts. You didn't ask for any more chakra though. What happened? Naruto shrugged. Turns out this cool pendant I got from Tsunade suppresses Biju chakra. Shame. I hoped you would level the forest. The fox shrugged. Yeah well. Naruto paused. You hoped. The Biju looked at him. You knew it would happen. It snorted. Did you just prank me? The most dangerous demon in the lands rolled onto its back and laughed. You are an asshole. A massive, gaping asshole. You are far more entertaining than most of my owners. Alright. Haha. Naruto rolled his eyes. Now do it without the madness. No. Why? I can't. What do you mean you can't? The fox craned its head to meet his eyes. I'm not all here. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You are an immortal demon beast with incredible power. Don't try and tell me you're having an off day. No. I mean I'm literally not all here. The fox rolled back over and huffed. You're talking to half a demon beast. The yang half, to be precise. Explain. Said Naruto, very confused. After I was brainwashed for my little romp in Konoha. Too soon. And the fourth Hokage did the Reaper death seal to put me in you. He decided that he was going to literally split me in half. Probably thought if he put all of me in you I'd have taken over by now, which is probably true. I'm not elemental like some of the other Biju, so you're currently talking to the yang half of my chakra. The yin half. I have no idea. Maybe he sealed it inside himself when the Reaper ate him so he could come back later under a reanimation jutsu and dramatically give it to me. Naruto suggested. That would be stupid. The Kyuubi dismissed. Why? Because even if there was a plot device with the power to bring people back from the Reaper's body, he wouldn't have known about it. The fox reasoned. And if he did, he would have told someone about it long before now. And more importantly, if us Biju could be permanently removed by sealing us into the Reaper, it would have been done generations ago. My other half is probably sealed into someone else, or hidden somewhere. But I think that imbalance is part of the problem. Isn't Yang the good one? Naruto scrunched his head up. I'd think less shadowy dark stuff would be a good thing. Yang is light, yes, but it's also masculinity. Confidence. Aggression. Too much yin chakra would make you dark, depressed, calculating and broody. And your penis would shrink. What? Joking. Mostly. But the yang overload you get whenever I pour my chakra into you makes you enraged, overconfident, unthinking. A picture-perfect demon host. It's not just that I'm sabotaging you, at least not deliberately. Your spirit is just massively out of whack. So how do we fix it? Naruto asked, skipping to the point. Ideally, get my other half back. The Kyuubi growled. But lacking any leads, you're going to have to balance it yourself. If you provide the yin chakra yourself, you should be able to stay sane enough. But I suck at yin. Naruto complained. Loud, flare, explosions, yang is where I'm at. Shadow shuriken. Multi-shadow clone. The fox dismissed. You probably act all young because your chakra is yin up the wazoo. Look, if you can learn to focus that nature transformation, you should be able to access higher levels of my power without going crazy. You want me to master a nature transformation? That sounds like it would take a while. Naruto frowned. The Kyuubi shrugged. Well, you have. 2.5 years. Hop to it. I'll be here if you need me, tormented eternally by loneliness and imprisonment. Ah, come on. You've got me. And the good news just keeps on coming. Naruto sighed, and turned away. There was a jolt, and he was back in the clearing. Jiraiya, I have a plan. Seas glistened. Mountains cut stark gray lines through the greens of forests, the yellow of deserts, the whites of the snowy poles. Beautiful, isn't it? The man declared. I wouldn't know, remarked a female voice from behind him. I suppose not. He sighed. I hope to show you, one day. Me too. It sounds really pretty, to hear you talk about it. I don't remember it being all too special, though. Likely due to your birth circumstances. The man replied, darkly. Those who raised you were despicable. Hey, my family was the best. He bit down on his tongue. Of course, my dear. I apologize. Still, events progress down there that worry me. The Akatsuki are about to move, the beasts are converging, that schemer continues exerting his influence over the world, and those two. He cut himself off again. My ancestors were quite right. Mankind has more than proven that it has failed in its duties. What do you mean? The female voice was concerned. Nothing, my dear. Don't worry. Soon, we will both be able to see. Arms crossed behind his back, eyes still closed, Tonari Otsutsuki looked out at the ninja world. Chapter 49. Everybody is here. 5 years before graduation. The moon was full, and bright, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky to get in the way of its gleam, casting a pale white light over all of Konoha. Itachi glared at it. Stop snitchin', motherfucker. We couldn't get a dark night for this. Some mist to hide in. Come on. The moon didn't respond. The eldest Uchiha Saiyan knew damn well he was being ridiculous to try and distract himself, but given what he was distracting himself from, he was gonna damn well let himself. Let's see how long we can delay the oncoming panic attack, huh? There was the tiniest whisper of noise, and Hyuga Neji appeared next to him in the gardens of the Hyuga compound. Done? Itachi asked. Done. Neji replied. Hinata's asleep. I moved her out of her parents' room, the Anbu will find her passed out on the sofa. And everyone else is. Yeah. Itachi blew out a breath. Delaying the breakdown. Don't think about the murder, we have about 3 minutes until the alarm is raised. Ideally we need to be a good distance into the forest by then. You got everything. Everything. Neji nodded, shouldering a large, padded rucksack. Knowing Neji would be doing the same, Itachi took a brief look at the rucksack with his dojutsu, getting an inventory of what his partner had decided to bring so that they'd know what to scavenge for later. And stopped. Neji. The Hyuga winced. Itachi. Is that what I think it is? White eyes narrowed. I couldn't. If I left. I know, but what the hell are we going to do about it? I don't know. Neji grimaced, keeping a tight control over his voice. I was just thinking. Do you still have Shisui's eye? Itachi stilled. Nodded. Is it? I don't know what to say. Charged. It can be used, yeah. But out of Shisui, the cooldown on it will be just shy of 10 years. Well, unless you have anyone else you particularly need to mind control. Neji left the question hanging, but Itachi shook his head. I'll explain the plan on the way. Trust me. The Uchiha sighed. All right then. Let's hustle. I reckon we have about a week in which I can realistically be chasing you before things get suspicious. Then let's see what we can get done. Without another word, the two vanished into the night. 2 minutes later, the alarm was raised on the greatest tragedy to befall Konoha since the Kyuubi attack 7 years prior. Act 5. Everything starts to happen all at once. Everybody is here. Suna was hot. This was something Sasori of the Red Sand had heard said quite a lot. He had experienced it himself. In fact, growing up in the hidden sand village, he'd had plenty of time himself to curse the blazing sun, or the freezing nights. Of course, Nowadays he didn't feel anything at all unless he built a puppet specifically for it, not usually worth it, and especially not through the puppet body that was currently strolling past the corpses of a few nameless Suna shinobi. He looked up into the sky, where Deidara was having the most fun he'd had in ages battling with the Ikibi's Jinchuriki. Massive plumes of sand flew through the air, grasping for the large clay birds circling round them and attempting to get through the nigh impenetrable defenses. Ordinarily Sasori would have been more than comfortable letting his partner do his thing, but when he began to hear explosions that didn't coincide with Deidara's attacks, he decided to intervene. My, how enterprising of Suna. Turrets were dotted across Suna's high walls. Large constructs firing upwards at the battle in the sky, peppering Deidara's birds with flak fire. Irksome. Shrugging the puppet's shoulders, Sasori revealed its claws and dug them into the walls, clambering up the sandstone structures until he was stood next to one of the turrets. It was trivial to whip out a chakra thread and tear off one of the plates, revealing its occupant, or lack thereof. The turret didn't have a cockpit, but continued firing completely automatically, ignoring Sasori completely. No, not automatically. Remote controlled. Well. He latched more wires onto the construct. In a room far beneath the battle in Suna, a blindfolded boy felt one of his eyes up above go dark, as his link to it was severed. Konkuro tightened his grips on the strings. A shell based on the explosive tag technology, and a wind release fire mechanism. Not bad. It had taken Sasori a few seconds to understand the puppet's inner workings, after which he immediately turned it and fired it at the other artillery. That certainly got their attention. As one, the turrets all turned away from the sky battle and trained themselves on him. His was quickly destroyed by a barrage of fire. This is fun. He set his sights on the next nearest turret, which was when his artificial ears picked up someone landing on the wall behind him. I don't know who you are, a girl's voice said, but you've just smashed one of my brother's toys, and he is going to be pissed about it. Sasori smiled. Sabaku no Tamari, unless I'm mistaken. He turned around. These are Konkuro's work, then. I'll have to. Pay him a visit. What the fuck even are you? The blonde Kunoichi stared at him, aghast. Sasori of the red. Yeah no shit, but Kami. Tamari shook her head. You look horrifying. Really? You look like Bane crossed with the Hunchback of Notre Dame. What? Read books. You look like Darth Malik mated with a Zabrak, like violently. Well that's obscure. Oh no wait, is that meant to be a beard? Tamari squinted at him. Oh I thought it was a mask. Never mind. You look like the ladies from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You know the ones who put the fake beards on so they can stone a guy. Are you a girl? If so, you poor soul. There was another explosion from up above them. Sasori sighed. Look, I have to go destroy more turrets. Are you going to stand there and insult me or am I going to kill you? Neither. Tamari drew her fan. I'm gonna beat your ass and take you in for questioning. Sasori crooned. You go, little Genin. Don't let anyone tell you what you can't do. I'm a Jonin. Oh wow, they're just letting anyone in nowadays. Tamari swept her fan forwards, blasting a small hurricane of sharp wind at him. The scythes tore into his puppet body, splitting it into almost a dozen different pieces and spreading him across the top of the wall. He lay still. Tamari shrugged. That was not what I expected. She walked forwards, cautiously. She almost didn't notice, but just as she reached the remnants, another explosion from up above that highlighted the glints of chakra threads still connecting the individual parts. Tamari was a Jonin. The moment she noticed she leapt upwards and away, but it wasn't fast enough. Out of one of Sasori's back parts, a large metal tail launched out and darted towards her, drawing a thin line of blood across one of her legs. She landed, and watched as the chakra threads tightened, and he rebuilt himself. A puppet. She sighed. Should have expected that really. One hand absently scratched her leg where he had caught her. You go for the surprise attack and that's the best you can do. It was enough. Sasori shrugged, walking away. Hey, where do you? Tamari paused. Oh shit, poison. Right. Her legs buckled underneath her and she crumpled to the floor. Amused by the encounter, Sasori continued walking. It wasn't long, after that. The remaining turrets were quickly rendered useless as a wide plume of sand poured up from the desert, covering the entire village. The reason for that was made clear a moment later, when a gigantic boom echoed across the sands. And that means we'll be done relatively quickly. Sasori took a moment to look out across the village. Looking up in shock, saved by their cage. Not knowing that they were going to be conquered by this time next year. The first step. Beware world. The Akatsuki is here to show you real power. You said that aloud, you know. Didero remarked, floating down on one of his clay birds. You didn't hear anything. Hey, at least you're better than Pain. Guy monologues everywhere he goes. Now hop on, before their Anbu realize what's happening. It was a beautiful day in the forests outside of Konoha. Birds were singing, flowers were blooming. On days like these, kids, well, they certainly shouldn't be stood on tree branches facing off against each other. I have returned. The one uttered, solemnly. He was a mid-teen now, but you wouldn't guess it by looking at him. He was significantly better built than anyone his age had the right to, owing to the intense physical training he'd undergone. His clothing was no longer completely orange, just mostly, with black highlights and a red spiral on his back. White fur had made its way into the cuffs and shoulders. His eyes, for now, at least, were a bright twinkling blue, and his blonde hair had grown out a little. 2 tufts of it sprouted up on his head in a way that might be confused with animal ears from a distance. So it would seem, responded the other. His clothes were black and tight, with a high collar around his neck. He hardly seemed to have put on any muscle at all. His frame was thin, lithe, and tall, though, he noticed with annoyance, not as tall anymore as the boy across from him. Everything about him looked sharp, from his face to his black hair to the spikes on his bracers. His eyes had no visible color at all, before they swirled into red circles with 3 black toma within them. It has been a long time, Uzumaki Naruto. Say it has, uttered the blonde. My separation has made me stronger, Uchiha Sasuke. Is that so? The dark-haired boy's hand fell to the sword at his hip. A finger slid the end of it free of its sheath. Prove it. With nary a blur, Sasuke had vanished, and immediately appeared right in front of Naruto with his sword having already completed a lethal slash. The Naruto shadow clone popped. Entirely unsurprised, Sasuke looked around, awaiting the inevitable clone dogpile, then was forced to jump away as the tree in front of him shattered into dozens of tiny projectiles. Naruto, having done nothing but punch it, charged out after it towards Sasuke. They collided midair with a slam, and broke out into a chaotic melee. Sasuke's dexterity was almost overwhelming, but Naruto had spent a long time training with Jiraiya to capitalize on his particular strengths, like using his ridiculous physical power to smash the surroundings apart and keep Sasuke at a distance. Sasuke was perfectly happy with that as well, falling back and hurling shuriken at an incredible rate. Their indecipherable patterns inevitably caught Naruto. He grimaced as one dug into his shoulder, but quickly vanished as a different Naruto appeared in his place, and then that one vanished the moment a blade touched it. Now the shadow clone swarm began in earnest, dozens leaping out from the foliage to assault Sasuke. He didn't move, continuing to produce an inordinate amount of bladed objects and throwing them in every direction. Not one of the Naruto was able to reach him. Huffing in annoyance, the team changed tack, and after a few shouts a powerful gust of wind picked up all the kunai and flung them back at their source. Sasuke easily sidestepped most of them and responded with his own hand seals. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. Wind style. Naruto countered. Shredding gale jutsu. The extent of their training became quite evident. 2 massive elemental blasts hurtled towards each other, only to collide into a massive sheet of ice. Exactly 3 hours later than he was scheduled to, Kakashi arrived in the clearing. Now I know you all must miss me, but please, save your adulation for, he paused. The clearing was empty. Sasuke and Naruto analyzed the newcomer. The ice wall, smashed by the jutsu from both sides, collapsed into pieces, and the figure stood atop it fell gracefully to the floor between them. That is all either of you are capable of, they mused. And here I was with high expectations. Their black hair was tied into a long ponytail that fell down to their hips, shinobi code for, I'm so good at taijutsu I don't care that I'm giving you something to grab. They wore short white shorts and a light blue sleeveless top, and their headband, strangely bearing the twin symbols of both leaf and mist, was around their neck as a choker. Large brown eyes stared at the other 2 in the clearing. Yuki Haku, despite 3 years of puberty, still looked like an attractive girl. All three suddenly moved, Haku flinging Senbon in both directions and jumping away. Naruto slid under them while Sasuke pursued, swiping them out of the air with his sword and moving to within striking distance. There was a flash, and he was trapped within a prison of ice mirrors. More needles rained towards him, but he was able to deflect all of the projectiles from the air with little effort. Oh, the outside! Naruto reached one hand out to the side and began marshalling his chakra. Wrecking Rasengan! He shouted. The spinning blue sphere formed in his palm, but then slipped out of it, still attached to Naruto through the presence of golden chains that wrapped around the ball, distorting its surface into a spiked mess. Naruto let the chains extend to a few meters in span, swinging the Rasengan in a circle before slamming it into the ice prison. The chakra-suppressing qualities of the adamantine combined with the Rasengan's inherent destructive power smashed through one side of the prison and out the other, sending shards of ice littering everywhere. Naruto didn't pay it any more attention. He rushed inside, grabbed Sasuke and bodily threw him backwards, ramming him into a tree. Sasuke opened his eyes and stared at Naruto, Sharingan flashing. For a moment he froze in place, which was long enough for Haku to jump from the remaining mirrors and drop on top of him, pinning him to the floor. That snapped Naruto out of it. He bucked, forcing Haku upwards, but the ninja summoned a large spike of ice and forced it down. That was interrupted by a chittering sound. Sasuke blitzed in, Chidori glinting with lightning, and he struck forwards with it, blowing the ice spear into pieces. All three combatants separated, forming a triangle in the clearing that they had just created, and staring at each other warily. I could do more, but my strongest powers damage my eyes every time I use them. Sasuke admitted. I could do more, but I don't trust the Kyuubi enough to sick him on you. Naruto admitted. I could do more, but if I start using Tsunade's seal before it's matured it will degrade and waste all my effort. Haku admitted. They paused and looked at each other. Put this on hold for now. Naruto suggested. Agreed. The other two replied. Then they all ran at each other and competed in a different way, namely, who could crush the others the most in a big three-way hug. Cammy, I've missed you guys. It's been ages. 4 fucking years. There were grins all around and much hearty backslapping before the three separated again. Have you two not been near each other? Naruto asked, pointing his finger between them. I thought you were both still here. I spent most of it off with Itachi. Sasuke shrugged. And I was in hidden mist for a lot of it. Haku explained. The rest I spent training medical ninjutsu with Tsunade and Sakura. Oh yeah, Sakura. How's she? Significantly more competent. Haku summarized. She's a healer/person who punches things really hard. Plus she and Ino have gotten over their crush on you, Sasuke. Oh thank goodness. He visibly relaxed. They've grown out of that. Sorta. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Explain. Ino clearly still has a thing for effeminate boys with dark hair, because she can't seem to decide whether to chase after me or Sai. Haku pondered. We're considering sharing her. How much of Konoha have you two seduced at this point? Naruto raised an eyebrow. About a quarter of the people our age. Great. Is Sai still working for his dark master? Yes, but this one time he avoided killing a child because he thought it would upset me, so we're making progress. Speaking of progress, Sasuke turned on Naruto. You'd better have made some. You're telling me you couldn't visit once in 4 years. I sent letters. Naruto defended. Me and Jiraiya were in the wilderness for the whole time. I had to send shadow clones into town for food. It was a good idea, too, because I raised the entire surrounding kilometer like 3 times. And speaking of, he turned to glare at nothing in particular. Hey, Fluffles, why didn't you help me out against Sasuke's genjutsu just then? Sasuke and Haku exchanged confused glances. Yeah, okay, so you haven't technically agreed to do it yet, but Naruto paused. No, it wasn't just a childish game. This was me showing off my new skills. You don't want me to look weak, do you? Hey Naruto, bud, are you doing okay? Sasuke asked. Yeah, I'm fine, he said, turning back to them. Sorry, incooperative Biju. His eyes lit up. Wait, I haven't had Ichiraku ramen in years. It's going to taste amazing. Come on, my treat. I'm down. Sasuke shrugged. I'd like a chance to catch up properly. Agreed Haku. Finally reunited, the trio began their walk back into. What the hell are you all doing? They turned. Kakashi was stood there glaring at them. Oh. Hey. Sasuke greeted him. Sup. Did you want to come too? We were supposed to do a bell test. Kakashi deadpanned. 5 hours ago. Ah. Sasuke made a contrite face. Our bad. It's just. I got lost on the road of life. Haku excused. I got caught up in the Great Squirrel War. Naruto nodded shamefully. And I was busy thinking up excuses. Sasuke finished. Terribly sorry. Won't happen again. Witty. Kakashi replied. But you do realize that if you can't get the bells, we can't form up as a new team. What? These bells? Sasuke reached into his pocket and pulled out a jingling pair. Exactly. Though, Kakashi paused. Shoved one hand in his pocket. When did you take those? Hours ago. Sasuke snorted. He held his hand up, and got high fives from his two friends. So are you coming, or what? I'm getting you back for this. But, free food is free food. Kakashi sighed, shoved his hands into his pockets, smiled behind his mask, and followed the three into the village proper. Underneath Suna, two Jonin burst into one of the lowest rooms. Sir. One shouted. The Akatsuki. They. Did you find my brother? Konkuro snapped. They looked at each other and gulped. No sir. The cage is missing. The chakra thread spreading out from Konkuro's hands tightened. And my sister. T. Tamari was poisoned by one of the attackers, she's currently in critical con. Both winced as something upstairs exploded loudly. Continue. Konkuro prompted. Sir. One of them coughed after a moment. You're the highest ranking ninja in the village. What do we do? Konkuro sighed. At once, the strings all severed themselves, and he stood up. What we've been trying to avoid doing for years. Someone patch me through to Konoha. Chapter 50. Skipping the boring cutscenes. And then everyone got their mission from Tsunade and trekked over to Suna, but that's boring, so nobody thought to write about it. The standard Konoha ninja are organized into 3-man teams. This was because, after a long trial period, they had found it to be the optimum number of people to complete missions efficiently and stealthily with minimal opportunities for error or miscommunication. However, in times of war, or in missions where stealth was a non-factor or the difficulty was particularly high, teams of 5, 6, 7, or even 10, 3 sub-teams with an overall leader, were sometimes considered. Hunting down 2 fleeing Akatsuki members to save a Jinchuriki and Cage definitely fell into that category. So Kakashi, Haku, Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura all walked together through Suna's gates, and were quickly escorted by the Anbu there to the Sand Village's primary medical building. So I know it's good to have a medic on the squad. Sasuke whispered to Haku. But you're here. Why is Sakura? Well, I mentioned Ino had gotten over you, but substituted you with me and Sai. Haku replied, just as quietly, watching the pink-haired Chunin stomp ahead of the rest of the group. Sakura had a similar thing. Remember when you got your brother to show her the Garou fight? Sasuke's eyes widened. That worked. She fell for Lee. Not quite. Sakura slammed the medical room's doors open and declared, all right punks, where is my boyfriend? Oh perfect, you brought her. Konkuro growled from the corner, before raising his voice. Read the mission report, sweetie. Your boyfriend's the one that got kidnapped. The rest of the 5 filed into the room behind her, and immediately took notice of the form laying on the room's only cot. Tamari was not in a good place, unconscious but shifting about in her sleep with grit teeth. An unhappy-looking red fox was sat on top of her, but it perked up when Naruto shouted, Uzu. And it scampered over to him. The fuck did this? Haku muttered, grabbing Sakura and walking over to the patient. Sasori of the Red Sand. Konkuro bit out, as the 2 medic nin began their work. Akatsuki, puppet master, the guy that fought an entire country's militia at once and won. This is the second cage he's attempted to assassinate. He managed it last time. Naruto frowned, stroking the fox. Wasn't that Orochimaru? He killed the 4th cage. Sasori killed the 3rd. Have any of your leaders died of natural causes? Cage don't tend to live long natural lives, Blondie, and we're getting distracted. Konkuro turned to Kakashi. My sister is dying, and my brother is well on his way. I want the heads of the people responsible on spikes. Will you help? Kakashi turned. Sakura. Haku. We might be able to fix her up. Sakura replied, in business mode. But I've never seen anything like this poison before. I've identified 3 different elements that will kill her in one quick check. Do you have any other samples of the poison? Kankuro twitched one finger. Chiyo is coming now. Who's Chiyo? Naruto asked. She has history with Sasori. She might be able to help. Ex-girlfriend. Kankuro snorted. Not exactly. To Kakashi, and the other part. The murdering the assholes that did this part. I mean, that will be more difficult. Admitted Kakashi. Considering we have no idea where they went, their tracks are long gone. Show them the scrap you found. Sasuke called across to him, boredly. The Uchiha was stood separately to everyone else, staring up at the corner of the room curiously. Kakashi scowled under his mask. Fine, take all the fun out of it. He pulled some red fabric out of his pocket. Behold, a scrap. The fuck is that? Kankuro asked. I'm glad you asked. Kakashi replied. For you see, damn it Sasuke, you took all the wind out of my sails now. This is twice. Be a better Jonin. Sasuke shrugged, still looking at the corner. Punk. Yeah, it's a scrap off Sasori's clothes. My dog Summons can use it to track him. Then we're burning time. Kankuro gestured. Where are we going? Naruto squinted. We're going to go fight some S-rank ninja. Are you sure you can do that? Kankuro managed to glare even with a bandage across his face. Look me in the eyes and tell me you don't think I can fight. Naruto blinked. I can't. Exactly. He's not blind, Naruto. Sasuke came in to save his teammate. He held up a hand and waved it at an innocuous-looking wall. What's it like living in third person? Kankuro actually smiled. He twitched another finger, and a small wooden contraption, previously almost perfectly camouflaged, detached itself from the wall and scuttled along the floor. And I was now visible on top of it. I'm not blind. I see everything that happens in this village. Kankuro explained. Oh, you got crippled and it gave you a massive power boost. Naruto realized. It happens a lot in Jiraiya's books. Precisely. Kankuro smiled sweetly. Remind me to thank Sai before I definitely don't murder him. Oh yeah, Suna's still incredibly salty about what happened 4 years ago. Sakura remarked, not looking up. Weird that you'd hire us even though you want to seem more independent. Oh for. Kankuro sighed. You want me to say it? Fine. We need your help. Fuck my pride, I don't care. Just help me save my family. The Konoha nin exchanged glances. Crap, he's being genuine, I can't mock that. Naruto summarized. There was some cackling, and the door opened. Ah, it's good to see you're making friends, Kankuro. It really warms my old heart. Hey Chiyo. Kankuro waved. The leaf kitties want your help. That's Sasori's ex. Naruto screwed his face up, taking a good look at the old woman in a silly hat that walked in. How old is this guy? She's his grandmother. Kankuro sighed. That's way worse. Kakashi smacked Naruto round the back of his head, eliciting a yelp, but Chiyo just laughed it off, before narrowing her eyes at the 2 ninja beside Temari's cot. Oh, I recognize that healing style. You 2 are Tsunade's students. Quote. Yes. Haku confirmed, questioningly. Your cage was a real pain in my butt. Chiyo declared. She kept healing the people I tried to poison. I'm sorry. Sakura tried. Hey. Don't worry about it. That means you'll be useful. Chiyo turned to Kankuro. Leave me with one of them and your sister will be fine. Her gaze darkened. I imagine the rest will be going to fight Sasori. Let me guess. Sasuke drawled. He's your grandson, so you don't want us to kill him. Oh no, he's crazy and he needs to go down. She dismissed. I lost most of my empathy for him when he started turning his friends into puppets. Give him an extra kick for me, would you? Just pointing out that there's also a guy called Deidara with clay explosives, and he did most of the work. Kankuro added. Oh yeah, kick him too. Kakashi turned to the medics. Which one of you 2 is staying? They looked at each other for a moment, before Haku sighed. I'll stay. Strength is probably more useful than needles against puppets and explosions. Go get your man, Pinky. Sakura whooped. You do realize you're all going to die, right? Gaara mused. He was in excruciating pain due to the gradual extraction of his biju, but years of living with said biju meant he was entirely capable of hiding that pain. There was a massive scary statue behind him that he was trying his hardest to ignore. "You're remarkable, Chipper, considering what's going on," Sasori replied, sat next to him. When Gaara didn't respond to that, he sighed, and put on a mocking voice. "Why are we all going to die, Mr. Kazekage?" "I'm glad you asked." Gaara smiled back. "It's because I did this thing called making friends during my tenure as Kazekage. And they're all going to come murder you. Quote. That's it. Is that not enough?" "No, I was just expecting something more." Gaara mused. "I suppose there's the fact that there aren't any civilians around in this dingy cave, so you won't be able to hold a bunch of people hostage like you did with me." He smiled, with a vague aura of brutal slaughter. "If you'd like, you can let me go and we can try it again." Deidara looked hopefully at Sasori. "No." The puppet master glared, making the bomber huff and wander off. Sasori walked across to Gaara and leaned towards him. "So, you think you've made friends? Rich. You do realize you're a monster, right? The only people coming after you will be trying to retrieve a war asset. I stopped you killing everyone in my village." Gaara replied. "And you're calling me a monster?" Sasori chuckled, darkly. "Ah, an ethics lesson. I think you'll find most of the world sees things far more literally. Take it from someone who gave up on people long ago. Friends will always disappoint you." Gaara looked up at him and smiled. There was no fear in his eyes. "You've never met Uzumaki Naruto." Sasori scoffed and turned away. "So what is the plan for you two?" Gaara called over his shoulders. "Are you just sitting around for a few days while I slowly die in front of you?" Deidara snorted and looked up. "Few days. Where did you get that idea?" "Oh, I just presumed. If it took 3 days to seal a biju into the Geto Mazo, that would cause hella plot holes later on." The Akatsuki shrugged. "It takes minutes to hours, depending on how much pain wants to help." "Oh." Gaara felt the last wisps of sandy chakra leave his body. "Very well. I'll make a note that Akatsuki always finish quickly." Quote. Was that a fucking? By the time Deidara had stood up to retort, Gaara had already died. "Hey Neji." Kisame called. "Do you want to send some clones to slow down the people hunting Deidara and Sasori but ultimately not kill anyone? Doesn't that just sound like it would pointlessly pad the runtime without accomplishing anything?" Neji replied. "Yeah, you're right." Neji went back to crotcheting. Kisame went back to thinking about killing children. "We're getting close," said Kakashi's dog. "We're getting close." Kakashi shouted backwards, somewhat pointlessly. The 5 had broken free of Suna's oppressive desert and followed a river into grassier territories. Now they landed before the mouth of a large cave in a rock face. The opening thrummed softly. "You seeing what I'm seeing?" Sasuke asked. Kakashi lifted his headband, revealing his Sharingan, and nodded. "A barrier. Funinjutsu. Damn it. Puppet mastery is technically a sealing jutsu." Konkuro informed them, the little spider drone on his shoulder looking around. "Sasori's an expert. I heard he can literally put a seal in your brain and control you." "Shit." Kakashi summarized. "We're going to need an expert if we want to unlock this." There was a flash, as a series of golden chains slammed into the barrier. Chakra shattered and dissolved as the glowing links whipped around, tearing the entryway apart. "It's unlocked." Naruto responded, releasing the chains and letting them vanish. "Come on. Let's go." "Fucking kids." Kakashi growled. "Alright. Fine, let's do this." They ran in. The cave was very big, almost the size you'd expect of a massive fight arena or something, with only 3 figures on the inside. Naruto's breath hitched. Konkuro's fingers clenched. "Well shit," remarked a long-haired blonde, relaxing atop a comfortable-looking seat. "That was fast. You guys are good at this." "Guys, I think this might be them." Sasuke deadpanned. "Gee, what gave it away? The fact that they're sat on Gaara's corpse?" Naruto snarled. His voice had gradually increased in volume over the sentence. "Hey, Mrs. Eyepatch. Get your skinny ass off my friend. I'm a guy." The blonde deadpanned. "Great. He has Haku syndrome." Sakura summarized. "Wow, look at all the fucks I don't give. Feet off my brother." Konkuro glared. Stop using the cage as a footrest, Deidara. Sasori told his companion. Sighing dramatically, Deidara heaved himself off Gaara. He made sure to stomp on the boy's head as he got up. Naruto's eyes flashed red. He began to dart forwards, but 4 glowing threads in his back held him from lunging straight for the Akatsuki's throat. Cool it, Kankuro hissed. Revenge is easier to enjoy when you're calm. Across the room, the duo in black were having their own discussion. We trying for the Ninetails? Deidara asked his mentor, quietly enough that their attackers couldn't hear them. If the Kyuubi gets loose, it's above our pay grade, admitted Sasori, grudgingly. Bait as many as you can, then lose them. I'll kill whoever stays and we'll regroup. Leave the Uzumaki boy for Neji or Pain. Aloud, he said, Ah, Kankuro. The boy with the ingenious turrets. How is your sister doing? Tamari will be fine, I'm afraid. Kankuro replied, reaching for a storage scroll behind his back. Really? How good to hear. A few ominous clicks came from within Sasori's body. A shame that you will not have the same fortune. Now. Now. Deidara grabbed Gaara's corpse and span, as Sasori's left arm came up and a hatch in it opened. A whirlwind of small needles blasted out towards them from it. Naruto was quick to make wind release hand seals, but quickly aborted them as the rest of his squad dodged out of the way. As they did so, Deidara took the opportunity to form a large bird out of clay. It quickly clutched onto Gaara's corpse, and Deidara hopped onto it, gave them a wave, and it began to flap its way up out a hole in the ceiling. Shit. Sasori. Catch him. Leave him too. No. You go. I outrank you, dumbass. Clay. When did you make Jonin? But these were trained ninja, and by the time Sasori's needle attack finished, the shouting had been evolved into a plan. Naruto charged Sasori, shouting loudly and wielding a Rasengan, but the puppet master slid his tail round and stabbed him in the stomach. Which was fine, because he was a shadow clone, and now Kakashi, Sakura and Naruto Prime leapt up after Deidara. Sasori turned to intercept them but was forced backwards by a large fireball cutting across his path. Let's keep this between us, huh? Sasuke offered, taking his hand away from his lips. We're going to 2 volts 1 a member of the Akatsuki. Kankuro sighed, coming up behind Sasuke. I'm blind and we're 2 volts 1ing Sasori of the red sand. Got any hacks? Sasuke asked, as their opponent turned towards them. I've got 20 puppets in sealing scrolls, but I can't use more than 10 at once. Kankuro warned. I've got a high-cost line of sight instacle. Sasuke provided. But I have no idea if that's even his real body. Well, Kankuro palmed a sealing scroll. We'll know once we've torn him apart. Sasuke grinned, and drew a sword from his back. Oh, I think we're gonna work great together. Chapter 51. Master of Puppets, not the song. Massive chakra dick flop. Noun. A massive chakra dick flop, or chakra flex, is when a shinobi uses a powerful and often wide-area jutsu just to show off how big their chakra reserves are. At genin levels, anything as simple as a great fireball can count as one, but when Kage are trying to intimidate armies of foreign ninja, the feats can reach large building or even city level in magnitude. Uses. 1. Then Jiraiya just flexed his chakra and summoned a fucking 5-story toad in the middle of the hidden village. 2. And then Hashirama went true 10,000 hands and made a giant fuck-off Buddha statue like, we get it, your chakra dick is really big. Madara, it's been 3 days. Chill. Just thought I'd mention, we don't have an antidote to his poison and by all accounts he puts that shit on everything. Kankuro warned. We can't get hit. Once. I didn't plan to. Sasuke held up Raito, and his Sharingan flashed. Then he grinned. Oh man, that was a good one. Did you feel that? Across from them, Sasori's tail flicked through the air. Those eyes. Very desirable. I'm curious as to how useful they'll be once you've been turned into my puppet. His eyes flicked to Kankuro. You too. I've never tried to use puppet mastery through a puppet before. He turns people into puppets. Kankuro whispered. It's really fucked up. Yeah, I caught onto that. Sasuke charged. Sasori once again attempted the Senbon cannon, but Sasuke didn't even falter, batting everything in his way right out of it with his blade. The moment the flurry ended, he sheathed it, and made hand seals. The Chidori sprung to life in his palm. Sasori's tail spiked towards him, moving to skewer him where he stood, but Sasuke didn't stray from his path. The small spider drone camouflaged on his back did move though, jumping up towards the attacking limb. Kankuro moved his fingers deftly, and the spider's chakra thread wound around the tail and tightened, restraining it just above Sasuke's head. The Uchiha continued unhindered, and blasted the Chidori straight into Sasori. The wooden exterior exploded. Splinters and shards went hurtling across the cave, landing in a mess some distance away. Well, Sasuke remarked. I gotta say I thought that would take a bit more. Nope, never mind, he's still alive. A figure rose up from the wreckage. That wasn't too bad, said a much younger voice. I guess I'll have to take you both seriously. Wearing a puppet as armor. I should have thought of that. Kankuro muttered. Standing up was a boy with red hair who didn't look much more than 18. Do you know, he remarked with a smile, I haven't had to use my real body in. Is that a second Akatsuki cloak? Years, what? Sasuke pointed. Did you deadass get the Akatsuki to make you a second cloak for when you're pretending to be a puppet? Only 2 members of the Akatsuki have ever known of my true appearance. Sasori boasted, before saying a little quieter, I had to get the second cloak commissioned. Sasuke snorted. How much did it cost? Like 40 ryo. That's not bad actually. Where did you? Sasori drew a scroll from his back and it glowed, before revealing its contents with a puff of smoke. Sasuke heard Kankuro swear, and then felt a series of small points on his back tense. His eyes widened as he was yanked backwards by chakra strings, and only had a moment to wonder what the hell Kankuro was doing before the ground he was previously stood upon was torn apart by blades. A puppet with blue hair and spines protruding from its arms looked up at him. That's the third cage. Kankuro hissed, as Sasuke landed beside him. The one he assassinated. Yeah, we're fucked. Sasuke took in the sight, Sasori's easy smile. I take it he was strong. The strongest so far. Did he have spike arms? No, he just. Did he have arms? What do you mean arms? That. Sasuke pointed. The third's puppet reached out, and one of its arms opened to reveal a set of seals, out from which appeared more arms that stretched out in a tsunami towards the 2 teenagers. Kankuro whipped his arms out and 2 of his puppets charged forwards with their own blades, slicing at the wooden poles. Sasuke jumped forwards to join them, but then backed up again as purple clouds began spewing from the arms. Poison gas. He snarled. Really? Kankuro, do you have wind release? No, damn it, where's Tamari when you need her? Kankuro unsealed another puppet and sent it in. Leave this to me. Inside the smoke, the puppets were engaged in a full-on brawl. The cage puppet was lethal, stronger and faster than any of Kankuro's, but the younger puppeteer had it outnumbered, and his own machines had an impressive number of tricks and traps contained within them. Sasuke dimly remembered that wielding more than one puppet at a time was incredibly difficult, and gave his teammate an appraising look. Kankuro was understandably not looking up. His body posture was hunched, his arms were held out to either side like he was reading air currents, and his fingers were twitching like an inane person. But apparently it was working. These puppets are good, Sasori praised, from across the cave. Who made them? I did. Kankuro growled. Really? What happened to the ones I left in Suna? I destroyed them. You? Sasori's face actually showed some emotion. What about the man and the woman with red hair? Those 2. The missing nin's eyes narrowed. Those were my parents. Shouldn't have turned them into robots. Kankuro didn't even flinch. Oh okay. You are very much going to die now. Sasori twitched, and his puppet's back opened. A glimmering black fluid spilled out of the third and whipped towards the other puppets, digging its way into their mouths and joints. They stopped moving. Iron sand. Kankuro bit out, cutting chakra to the constructs and letting them collapse. The puppets keep their owner's bloodline limits. That's bullshit. Sasuke pat him on the shoulder, walking forwards. Tag out. I got this. More metal particulates appeared from the third, forming into a large cube which it hurled straight at the 2 of them. They dodged. So it made another cube. Sasuke found himself flinging himself around the cave to avoid all sorts of metal projectiles, from shuriken to giant blocks to spinning inverse pyramid things. Avoiding it got even harder when it sprouted metal wings, how do those help, and began flying around the space. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There. The puppet turned the metal into tentacles like this was Konoha ghoul and began flailing them at its opponents. Perfect. Sasuke charged up a lightning jutsu and waited. As a tendril swept for his legs, he side-flipped over it and blasted it with the technique, causing the electricity to conduct right through the metal and into the puppet itself. It made a horrible, far too human screeching noise, shuddering in place as it lost control of its wings and crashed to the floor. Sasori was quick to make it stab one of the tentacles into the earth as a ground wire, but not quick enough. One of Konkuro's puppets latched onto it and buried inside it, tearing it apart. This immediately disintegrated all the metal constructs, including the one swinging for Sasuke, which left him free to bring his blade to bear on Sasori. The Akatsuki jumped away, barely avoiding the sword, and all Sasuke was able to do was cut into his cloak, forcing him back against the wall. He sighed. 40 Ryo, asshole. Being a terrorist doesn't pay well, you know. He unbuttoned the ruined cloak and threw it away. Both of his opponents took a step back. What? Smiled the human puppet. You're not squeamish about nudity, are you? Temari awoke with a strangled gasp. She's up, called a black-haired girl, hands glowing over the Suna girl's chest. Calm down. Breathe, Temari. You're safe. Temari squinted upwards, trying to make the world stop spinning. Haku. That you. What are you doing in? Wait, where am I? Everything went to shit. Haku summaried quite nicely. Village got attacked. Gaara got kidnapped. You got poisoned. Gaara. Temari tried to sit up, and Haku calmly but firmly pushed her back down. Easy. Your other brother and some of Konoha's finest are tracking him down now. Oh, she's awake. An old lady leaned over Haku's shoulder. Great. There was about a 30% chance that last dose would kill her. Chiyo. Somehow, despite her less than reassuring comments, the old lady had a comforting presence. Temari, more slowly, and Haku allowed it, sat up, rubbing her head. Sasori. We know. Some blonde guy on a bird. We know. So what are we doing about it? Haku sighed. I told you, we sent. Not them. Temari interrupted him. What are we doing about it? Chiyo. He'd. Well, we've now got the cure to Sasori's poison, assuming he hasn't changed it in the past 2 days. And your brother and his friends may well be in dire need of it. Sasuke and Kabuto both backed up a few steps. Sasori was very obviously not a human being anymore. There was a hatch in his bare stomach, seams at all his joints, and just for effect he was putting on a creepy head tilt. You are 2 of 4 people alive who've seen me like this. He mused. One other was Hyuga Neji, not much you can hide from him, and the last was Orochimaru. You knew that guy? Sasuke asked. We've kinda got history with him and want to murder his ass. Oh, of course. Sasori nodded understandingly. One of my spies with him is meeting me at Tenchi Bridge 10 days from now. Kabuto frowned. You're just telling us this. Well, we were supposed to assassinate him anyway. The puppet master shrugged. If you manage to kill me, at least you'll go on to finish my job. Alternatively, he pointed his arms forwards. If I kill you, there's no harm, is there? Oh, thanks, how reasona. Flames erupted from his palms. Sasuke countered with a great fireball, the 2 jutsu clashing in the middle of the cave, and backed up until Konkuro used his threads to pull up some large rocks to use as cover. Sasuke called across to him. Do you have water rel? I'm a puppet master. I don't have nature transformations. The flames cut out, and Sasuke jumped across to Konkuro's location, throwing a kunai. The flames immediately restarted, melting the kunai before it could even get halfway. Can we use your puppets as cover? Sasuke tried. They're made of wood. Fair enough. Alright. New plan. We're gonna move this rock forwards until the fire cut out, before being immediately followed by a jet of pressurized water that split the rock in 2, and Sasuke was forced to grab Konkuro by his lapels and tug him away from it while he summoned more of his seeing eye puppets. The water jets swept through the air like instadeath lasers, cutting holes in just about everything, but Sasori had made the mistake of using another attack that conducted electricity. Sasuke pulled Raito and held it up, splitting the jet in 2, and channeled lightning chakra into the blade. The electricity immediately conducted back across through the water and into Sasori's puppet body. He jerked, and the water cut off, and Sasuke immediately sprinted straight for him, sword pointed at the incredibly conspicuous thingy in his breast. Without the Sharingan, he'd have been skewered. The metal wire darted out of Sasori's chest, grounding him, and blades popped out of his shoulders and began spinning, and Sasuke had to stick his feet to the floor with chakra to arrest his momentum before it was a trick. His face came within inches of the blades, and Raito was knocked out of his hands and up into the air. Sasori pressed forwards, and Kankuro once again had to grab Sasuke with chakra threads to pull him out of danger. You think I've never had to go up against lightning release before? Sasori chuckled. Thanks again. Sasuke offered his ally, eyes tracking the movements of the spinning blades. If it's just one melee opponent, I can take him. Can you be ready to bail me if I can't get away? Kankuro nodded. I'd hate to interrupt your incredibly unsubtle planning, but... The wires within Sasori's chest began spinning rapidly. Allow me to completely interrupt that plan. Red secret technique. Master of 100 puppets. Oh shit. Sasuke gulped. Kankuro. Massive chakra dick flop incoming. Sasori pulled another scroll from his back, but this one didn't simply conjure one puppet. It made, well, have a guess how many puppets the Master of 100 Puppets jutsu creates. How many can you control? Sasuke whispered. 4. Kankuro whispered back. Come on, dude. Oh fuck you. Sasori gestured, and the puppets flew in. Get him. Vengeance for Gaara. Blood for the blood god. Skulls for the Iron Throne. Will you two both calm down please? Sakura, Naruto realized, wasn't so bad to be around after all. Sure, when he'd essentially functioned as a blocker between her and Sasuke she'd been a massive pain, but now he was starting to appreciate her viciously witty streak. Or maybe they were just bonding over their desire to hunt down and beat up the Gaara-killing clay-throwing piece of shit currently flying off on a bird. Naruto squinted at the fleeing Akatsuki, just out of range, and slowly, now he had some wind to work with pulling away from them. Sakura, he shouted. Throw me. She looked across at him, understood, and grinned. They locked forearms. Sakura planted her feet on a branch, and yoked Naruto up above tree level. He bled momentum fast, but it got him close enough to launch a set of adamantine chains to wrap around the bird's tail. It screeched. Naruto fell. He had a flash of deja vu, and then he braced as his legs crashed back into the tree trunks. After a few resounding crashes, he was able to stick himself to a tree without destroying it and keep the bird still, albeit flapping wildly in one spot. That was when Sakura stepped on Naruto's face. Hey. She ignored him. Sprinting straight up his chains, he realized, impressed, that she'd have to be balancing entirely without any tree walking techniques, chasing straight for the struggling bird. Deidara quickly span in place, manifesting clay in his hands, but Sakura didn't even bother to reach him, launching a chakra-enhanced punch that smashed the bird apart, then grabbing Gaara's body as it fell. Deidara angrily hurled one of the blobs at her, but before it could land she disappeared to be replaced with a grinning Naruto clone. The explosion lit up the sky. A few moments later, the three Konoha nin landed in a clearing, where Deidara was busy brushing clay debris off his clothes. Alright. Deidara sighed. You're all super fucking annoying. I know. Kakashi sighed. It's a gift. Naruto smiled, sweetly. Deidara began spewing clay from some gross-ass mouth on his hand, forming some four-legged animal in front of him. Well then. If you wanna fight the guy that just killed the Kazekage, you step right up. Kakashi and Sakura immediately stepped right up, but Naruto held out a hand to forestall them. Hey Kyuubi, he asked, inside his head. What? Came a bored voice. Gimme power. No. Please. I'm not stooping to give you my power so you can fight some little blonde crossdresser. Oh, alright, fine, I just thought. What? This guy beat the One-Tails Jinchuriki in a fight. If we beat him, I already know I'm stronger than Shukaku. Me too. But won't it be fun to rub his face in it? ... Hey. Go. Guys. Naruto said aloud. You might want to stand back. His eyes flashed red. A glowing, bubbling crimson aura burst into existence around him, forming two ears above his head and one long tail out his back. I'll take care of this one, said the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, charging forwards. This, woomph, technique is, crash, so, boom, bullshit. On the plus side, Sasuke found that his great fireball technique was very effective against Sasori's wooden-ass puppets. On the minus side, there were 100 of them. His Sharingan was darting about like nobody's business trying to keep track of them all, and his only consolation was that only so many could try and ram their weapons down his throat at once. Kankuro was doing equally horribly. The ground around him was littered with destroyed puppets as his active four formed a defensive perimeter around him and tried desperately to keep him safe. Crap. What do I have? Fire jutsu. Insufficient. Chidori. Good against Sasori, but I can't reach him. The swords. Most of them are just swords, they won't. Aha. He battled his way over until he was side by side with Kankuro. I have a plan, he shouted. Maybe. What? Kankuro yelled back, making an impressive attempt to keep track of everything without any ocular powers, or, in fact, eyes. Sasuke reached for his left bracer where 7 seals, 2 currently blacked out, resided on the inside leather. He tapped one specifically, and through a burst of smoke drew out a thin, blade-sized needle with a long coil of wire attached to one end. What is that? Kankuro asked, seeing it with one of his puppets. Nuibari. Sasuke replied. One of the 7. Why does it help? Not bothered to explain, Sasuke used a genjutsu to shove the information into Kankuro's head. Oh, that might work. Yeah, hold this. Sasuke threw the wire coil into Kankuro's hands and ran. The first puppet he encountered, he speared the blade straight through its chest. The piercing attack had no effect on the puppet, but Sasuke ignored that entirely, stepping out from behind it to launch the needle against the next puppet. And the next. And the next. The thin wire glinted. Nuibari was perhaps the weirdest of the 7 swords of the mist, and that included the one that was really an axe and the one that exploded when you swung it. The point of it, apparently, was that you impaled some people with it, and then channeled your chakra into the wire to manipulate their corpses and make some pretty patterns. Which sounded absolutely stupid. It was only after visiting Suna that he'd had an idea about what the sword's original purpose might have been. After all, Hidden Mist must have had some puppet masters, right? Kankuro, letting loose more and more wire as Sasuke continued his stabbing spree, gave it a little tug. The puppets moved. He tugged it again. The puppets moved once more. He grinned. Mist, you sly bastards. It's a puppet stealer. He dropped all control of his own contraptions, grabbed the wire with both hands, and poured his chakra into it. Across the room, Sasori, previously sat on a rock picking his nose, jumped up in surprise as a small contingent of his puppets began disobeying his commands. He checked that, yes, the chakra strings were intact and functioning, but nonetheless 10 of the remaining puppets had turned on their brethren. Then 11, then 12. What are you doing? He snarled, looking across at the duo. You broke my toys. Kankuro fired back. So now, I'm playing with yours. Sasori glowered. That was another good one-liner. We are killing it today, Sasuke called out, continuing his rampant hacking of Sasori's combatants, as the number of puppets on either side began to even out. Not to mention Kankuro was becoming more comfortable wielding his end of Nuibari, and the fights were becoming closer deals. The air was filled with the sound of clashing blades, smashing wood and mechanical rending noises. Sasori, clearly unhappy with the proceedings, made to join the fray. His central wire extended out like a grappling hook, clamping down onto one of the stolen puppets, and he accelerated towards it. Sasuke realized the problem. Sasori only had to sever the wire in one place to cut the effects entirely. Midair, he jumped off his latest victim, gauged distances with his Sharingan, threw his sword into the air and spun, kicking it as hard as he could over his own head. Just as Sasori's spinning blades moved towards the wire, Nuibari penetrated straight through his stomach and out the other side. Sasori's eyes widened in surprise. Then Kankuro caught the sword, and holding both ends tugged, sharply. The puppet man froze in midair. That was when everything happened very quickly. Kankuro threaded his end of the wire through the needle again and pulled, and the wire's long loop tightened. Fast. Over 30 puppets were all tugged violently inwards, including Sasori himself, as the circle grew tighter and tighter. All were forced into a tight bundle right in front of Kankuro, just as Sasuke fell from the sky with a loud shout and a chidori trailing from his lead arm, and crashed down onto Sasori's body. There was a massive flash of light, as some of the closer puppets were vaporized entirely, and lightning chakra tore all the surrounding ones to threads. The light was almost enough to keep Sasuke from noticing the strange cylinder, pulsing with chakra, that flew relatively unharmed from the wreckage. Almost. Oh no you don't. Amatera's HNGH. Threads wrapped around Sasuke's head and jerked it downwards, pulling his focal point off the core and forcing the black flames to burst into existence on the floor a few steps away. He can use the threads even as a that's not fair. Sasuke didn't see much other than the floor, but he felt the puppet wreckage he'd landed in move at Sasori's command, making dozens of parts tighten around his body and put him in a complete bind, then force him to a kneel on the stone ground. He heard swearing and shouting from Konkuro, undergoing the same treatment, and he heard a clunk as, presumably, Sasori's core fit into a new puppet. That, said the puppet master's voice from behind him, was exceedingly close. I know this is a bit rich coming from me. Sasuke recited. But your powers are bullshit. Oh, it is rich. There was a flash of a foot in Sasuke's peripheral as Sasori walked over to inspect the Amaterasu. You know, I never thought I'd be grateful to Orochimaru for spending so long going on and on about the Leaf's dojutsu. Rule 1. He said. Never let the Uchiha look at you. The strings tightened. Sasuke felt blood flow to his brain begin to slow. Tell me, Uchiha. Sasuke made sure to pinpoint exactly where Sasori's voice was coming from. How does it feel to have your precious eyesight rendered useless? Sasuke coughed. I'd have thought you'd have realized by now. Just because someone can't see, his right eye shifted pattern, doesn't mean they can't kill you. Blaze release. Kagutsuchi. The Amaterasu he'd lit upon the ground rushed across it, and was upon Sasori in an instant, and the Akatsuki let out a blood-curdling shriek as his form was engulfed in black flames. Almost immediately he lost control over his threads, and Sasuke was released from the cage of puppet parts, which only resulted in him flopping ungracefully to the floor. Kabuto blinked, as the mind control was released. Yo, holy shit. Sasuke turned his head, eyes bleeding, to look the rapidly melting metal scrap that used to be an S-rank ninja. I guess you could say the puppeteer. Fire, damn it, I was doing so good on the action hero lines. There was a rough grip on his shoulder, and Konkuro pulled him to his feet. I'm sure you can be forgiven, just this once. He'd pulled out another puppet to see with, and it was looking worriedly at Sasori's remains. Mind telling me what the hell that was? Blaze release. Sasuke stretched, closing his eyes against the blinding headache. My personal and incredibly painful nature transformation. There's no such thing as blaze release. Well, technically it's just really good fire release, but do you really want to debate me on it? Sasori's corpse bubbled slightly. Konkuro looked to it, then back at Sasuke. No. Precisely. Come on. Let's find my swords and get on after the others. With a loud boom, Deidara crashed into the ground. Naruto landed perfectly calmly in front of him, brushing some lint off his shoulder. In his left hand, he casually hefted one of Deidara's arms, sniffed it, then chucked it to one side. Around them was a scene of middling to large devastation. Trees had been uprooted, foot-deep claw marks were etched into the ground, explosion craters peppered the area. Kakashi and Sakura were stood a few meters back, staring at their teammate with just a little fear in their eyes. Deidara stood up, clutching his stump arm and glaring at them. Well damn. That's why they were saving the 9 tails for pain. That was one tail of power. Naruto grinned. Do you want all 9? Can we make him fight all 9? No. You're no fun. The chakra cloak dispersed from around Naruto's form, and he stretched as his 2 teammates came to stand beside him. Hey. No thanks. But if I'm going out, I'm sure as hell not doing it like a little bitch. Deidara shrugged off the tattered remnants of his cloak and put his hand on the mouth on his chest. This is a little something I like to call my suicide bomb technique. 10 guesses what it does. Naruto tilted his head. Quote. Does it blow you? Yeah, it blows me up. Deidara started glowing, grinning at them. Don't bother trying to run. This is gonna destroy the whole damn forest. Crap. Sakura summarized. What do we do? I got nothing, admitted Naruto. I could stop him. Kakashi mentioned. What? The 2 Chunin rounded on him. That's great. Do it. Kakashi sighed. I dunno. There was a pause. Sorry what? Naruto repeated. I mean, Kakashi looked down dejectedly. It just feels like you and Sasuke haven't been appreciating me very much recently. You've really hurt my feelings and I don't know if I'm up to this. Naruto looked between him and Deidara, the latter of which was making a gradually more high-pitched humming noise. You're holding us all hostage because we hurt your ego. Does he do stuff like this often? Sakura asked. All the time. Naruto sighed. For the Kakashi-sensei, you're an amazing ninja who's very strong and talented. And attractive. Kakashi looked up hopefully. And attractive. Naruto growled. And intelligent, and you have great taste in masks. Now save us from the exploding person. Please. See, that's more like it. Kakashi walked forwards and lifted his headband. Hey Deidara. Knock knock. 5 seconds from exploding, the Akatsuki raised an eyebrow. Who's there? Kamye. Kamye WH. There was a muffled boom. Countries away, Toby looked up into the middle distance. Something wrong? Asked Neji, playing cards with Hidan. Toby didn't say anything for a long time. Then, heavily, someone blew up my sandcastle. The one in the different dimension you keep telling us you have. Hidan checked. Ye, that one. Shame. They went back to doing whatever they had been doing. Chapter 52. Aftermath 5. Who botched the mission? You fucking what? Sasuke and Kankuro had reunited with Kakashi, Naruto and Sakura on their way back to Suna. Kankuro was busy talking to Sakura, stood with his brother's body. Sasuke had other concerns. His eye changed pattern. Naruto recited. Then he said, Kamye, and absorbed the entire explosion. You, Sasuke rounded on Kakashi. The Jonin had his headband down over his eye, and a smug look on his face. You have a Mangekyo Sharingan. Yeah, Kakashi replied. How did you even get a Sharingan in the first place? Well, you see. The Jonin paused, looking for the words. Because I'm Hatake Kakashi. Fuck you, I can do whatever I want. Sasuke threw his hands up in the air, walked away a few steps, then turned back. Why have you never used this before? When have I ever needed to use it before? When? Sasuke thought about it. The wave mission. You were stuck in the water prison, we had to bail you out. Kakashi snorted. You think I was stuck in there? Sasuke connected the dots. It was a test. You were testing us. Yeah. Zabuza was almost cage level. You're still alive, aren't you? Kakashi pointed out. And Zabuza was not cage level. He could have assassinated Mei, probably, because Mei's fodder, but that's it. I don't believe this. Sasuke walked off in a sulk. What was all that about me needing to be a better Jonin? Kakashi called after him. Fuck you. Sasuke stopped his dramatic exit as 3 forms blurred past him in the other direction, landing in front of the group. 2 healers, supporting 1 blonde kunoichi. Oh. Good. You're all still alive, Chiyo remarked. Mostly. Temari winced, pointing. His body's intact. Sakura told Kankuro, running glowing green hands over Gaara. The red-haired boy was laying on the floor, perfectly still. Physically fine. No poison, just sort of empty. Biju extraction. Chiyo explained, walking up. Seen it before. The relationship between Jinchuriki and Biju is symbiotic. The beast's chakra and the human's mix. Chakra coils expand to compensate, and if the beast's chakra is removed, all the Jinchurikis is ripped away with it. Then before they can regenerate it. When have you ever seen this before? Kankuro asked her. About 15 years ago. Chiyo told them. In Shukaku's previous host, after I'd just transferred it into Gaara. You did. Do you know what happened to the Biju? Chiyo ignored Kankuro's outbreak. It's not a great idea to leave them running around unchecked. The rest of the group looked at Naruto. He frowned, looking off into the middle distance. No, actually. Kyuubi couldn't sense him anywhere in the cave, or chasing after Deidara. And Sakura's right, there's no Big Sandy in Gaara anymore. It's like he's in a new host. An Akatsuki host. Kakashi frowned. That's not good. If we found Shukaku. Kankuro looked up, knuckles white. Put the Biju back, do you think? Not enough. Chiyo sighed. You could jumpstart the body, but his soul's already in the Pure Lands. You're not getting that back, not without. She paused. Everyone's eyes slowly turned to her. Shit, she muttered. You have a way? Temari asked, Voice cracking. Please. He's our brother. Kankuro begged her. Chiyo growled to herself. Damn kids and their damn puppy dog eyes. Kisho Tensai. It's a suicide jutsu. If the body is in good condition, it lets you sacrifice your own life to restore theirs. Can't help if he's been cut in half, poisoned, or is dying of old age, but in special cases like this, yeah, it could bring him back. Problem is I'm old and frail. I don't have the chakra to revive him successfully. There was silence. The group looked at Gaara, each other, Chiyo, and back again. And then, 8. Teach it me. Temari's eyes widened and she looked up in surprise. Kankuro. I'm strong enough. The middle sand sibling rolled his shoulders. Teach me the suicide jutsu. I'll bring him back. Kankuro. You can't. Temari hissed. It'll kill you. Yeah, that's what suicide does. Chiyo gave them both a critical eye. I remember a boy, she said, who thought his youngest sibling was a monster. Who preferred the company of puppets to that of his family. What's changed now? Sabaku no Kankuro. Kankuro looked down. His fingers twitched, as though he was attempting to manipulate a puppet that wasn't there. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. He started. Failing entirely to dodge this one sword swing, that was a mistake. Failing entirely to aim my turret puppets properly, that was another big one. But the biggest mistake I've ever made was not being there for my little brother when he was growing up. Because he thought that everyone hated him, and he might just have been right. And then, Kankuro choked a little, after the mess in Konoha. He thought he had to apologize to me. Chiyo stared at him, unmoving. So I'm not fucking this bit up. The young puppeteer sighed. If I've gotta die to give Gaara an actual life, then I'll do it. Just. Let him know I loved him, alright. There was silence. Naruto sniffed. Well then. Chiyo shrugged. I suppose the bitchiest thing to do right now is make you live with the embarrassment after giving that speech. What? Whiskers, come here. I need to borrow some chakra. Chiyo walked over to Gaara, cracking her knuckles, and Naruto hesitantly followed. I thought you said you didn't. I don't have enough chakra, but you should have plenty to spare. Chiyo chuckled. I just need a temporary pulse of Biju goodness to set him off with, and then once he's back on his feet he'll start replenishing it on his own. Don't worry, you won't have to die to get this to work. Are you actually gonna die to do this? Naruto asked, laying his hands on Gaara's body as instructed. Kid, good rule to live by. Chiyo explained. If ever you're in doubt about a decision, pick the one with the coolest way to die. I think you're my new role model. Naruto gaped. Damn right. Now, start pouring when I say. It wasn't a very dramatic event, bringing Gaara back from the dead. There was no swelling musical orchestra, no bright lights, no powerful whirlwind that lifted up Gaara's form. Naruto poured some of his chakra into Gaara, and Chiyo did the same, and over a few minutes her posture sagged, and her eyes closed. Eventually she leaned back, exhaled, and daintily as you please lay backwards onto the grass. And that was that. A few moments later, Gaara coughed. The fuck? Everyone clustered around as the ex-Jinchuriki slowly sat up, wincing, and looked around at them all. Gaara, you okay? Temari asked. Huh. I told them I had good friends. Was all he responded with, smiling. The Konoha nin stayed for Chiyo's funeral. It was a fairly grand affair, as she had been a well-respected member of the village for a long time. Gaara, as Kazekage, gave a speech, pointing out that he was the last in a long line of people who owed their lives to the woman, and the Leaf 5 respectfully ignored the part where he talked about how many people from the other villages she'd killed. Suna has not known many like her, Gaara concluded, and now it is up to us to follow in her example. 2 dead Akatsuki for 1 old woman. Kankuro said after the speech, stood beside foreigners. I'm pretty sure that qualifies as mission success. I know Chiyo would have made the trade in a heartbeat, so I can't really complain. Did you know her well? Naruto asked. We got pretty close after that one time we attacked your village. Temari explained, walking up. It was nice to have some sort of parental figure, if only for a few years. Kami knows we had a lot to catch up on. Shukaku is still missing. Kakashi reminded them. So I can't really say we succeeded. The big softy is trying to say that this was on the house. Sasuke interrupted. Gaara's our friend, As weird as that is, so you don't have to pay us to help save him. Plus, he smirked, the bragging rights for Konoha is payment enough. I'll let you have that one. Kankuro sighed. But don't expect Suna to come begging for help anytime soon. We can go it alone, as long as we remember to stick together. Does that make any sense? About as much sense as you can expect a ninja to make. Naruto grinned. Gaara walked off the stage to meet them. Physically he'd recovered very quickly from, well, death. As a matter of fact, he was looking better than they'd ever seen him. How was the speech? He asked, impassively. Naruto opened his mouth, but was beaten by a pink form flying past him and colliding with Gaara. You did amazing, darling. Sakura said, draping herself over the Kage's left arm. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Sakura. Gaara replied, wrapping the arm around her waist and smiling at her. Naruto held up a finger and pointed between them. Wait, is that mutual? I respect her determination, drive, dry wit and skill with medical ninjutsu. Gaara summarized. Also she has a nice ass. Kakashi choked. He's unfallibly polite, respectful and powerful. Sakura explained. Also he has a nice ass. Kankuro choked. Oh yeah, sorry Sasuke. Sakura turned to him with a scornful look. But Gaara's actually nice to me, which is more than I ever got from you. What do you? Naruto elbowed his best friend, and Sasuke recovered quickly, and made a sorrowful face, lowering his head respectfully towards her. Right. I understand. I hope he makes you happy. He turned around to Naruto and mouthed yes. With an ecstatic look on his face. You do realize we're gonna have to find you a girlfriend eventually, right? Naruto checked in with his best friend. Eventually. Sasuke nodded. Not now. That was a decent excuse back when we graduated, but you're, what, 15 now? And you've never even had a date. Oh, like you're one to talk. Hey, my first crush turned out to be a dude. What do you think put me off Sakura? I'm never trusting anyone that flat ever again. You what? Sakura shouted. You had a what? Haku gasped. Kakashi sighed as the two medics entered the heated debate, leaving him and the three Sand siblings watching in amusement. Does it make any sense that I've missed this? He remarked to them. Kankuro chuckled. About as much sense as you can expect a ninja to make. Fifth Hokage Tsunade put the mission report down and whistled. Well, that was a roller coaster. The Akatsuki traded 2 members for a Jinchuriki. A Jinchuriki one of them beat. They've failed, right? Naruto asked, concerned. Treated on its own, this is a serious blow to them, yes. Tsunade admitted. But if you look at the bigger picture, it's not the first time they've gone biju hunting. Kakashi frowned. Naruto. Remember right after your Chunin exams? They went after the Kyuubi. Naruto gulped. You think this is just step 1? I'll warn the other villages. Tsunade decided. Lightning has the 8 tails, Mist has the 3, 2 still under lock and key, but more than one of the Jinchuriki are out of the hidden village's control. We won't be able to warn them. We can protect me, though, and the 9 tails can beat most of the others at once. Naruto pointed out, smugly, then winced when everyone looked at him. Sorry. Kyuubi talking. You think they want all the beasts? Haku asked. What for? The last person to hold all the biju was Senju Hashirama, and he could have ruled the world if he'd fancied. Though he hardly needed them to do that. Tsunade shrugged. Whatever their reasoning, my sources say they're moving. We have sources? Sasuke asked. How do we have sources in the Akatsuki? Tsunade smiled. Riley. Your brother just got back. I don't know how he does it, but he's not been wrong yet. Itachi shuffled his cards. Do you have any 4s? Asked Neji's shadow clone. Itachi sighed, and flicked one over. This is no fun when you can see what's on my cards, asshole. Also, what's your murder club doing? But we have more pressing concerns. Tsunade turned on Sasuke. Namely, what you heard about Orochimaru. The room fell silent, and the killing intent in the air went up by about 50%. We're not letting that slide, are we? Naruto tried not to make it a threat, and failed. No chance. Tsunade rolled her shoulders. I doubt I need to give you much in the way of instructions about this next one. I take it you all want to go. Can't. Haku held a hand up apologetically. May wants me back in Mist over the next few days. Something important, apparently. I can be the one to warn her about the Akatsuki. Alright. I'll sort out a replacement. I'm sure I can scrounge up someone of your skill level. Tsunade agreed. Any other concerns? Yeah, actually. Kakashi held up his hand. One small problem. He promptly collapsed face first onto the carpet. Tsunade sighed. I suppose I'll also have to get you a new team captain. Sasuke walked into the Uchiha living room, and sat down on the sofa. A few moments later, Itachi appeared in the doorway, and sat down next to him. Kakashi's Sharingan has the thing. Sasuke said, immediately. I know. Itachi replied. And you don't care. Your father actually decreed no harm was to come to him for having one. Itachi admitted. Respect for his work in the war, maybe. Or just that Obito was such an embarrassment Dad didn't want people thinking about him. Who? The guy Kakashi's Sharingan came from. Weak, even by regular ninja standards, though he was only a genin when he died. Well, either way, Kakashi can't use it very well. Sasuke rolled his eyes. He used some space-time ninjutsu once, acted fine all the way back to Konoha, then faceplanted in Tsunade's office. Drama queen. HMPH. Itachi smiled. I heard you killed one of the Akatsuki. How did that go? Kankuro helped. Sasuke defended. And I had to use it to win. Itachi's face fell. One, or both. That's not good. I know. In hindsight I should have kept Naruto with me. A few hundred shadow clones would have done me a lot of good, but apparently he was integral to beating Deidara, so. You're alive. Itachi reassured. That's all that matters. It's alright to use it as a crutch until you're strong enough without it, but be careful. I'd rather you be able to see the candles on your 18th birthday. Sasuke was forced to concede Itachi's point. He'd used his powers 7 times total, hadn't even managed the Susanoo yet, but comparing it to memories of his battle with Kimimaro, yeah, there was difference in clarity. His Sharingan still blew normal vision out of the water, but it was a scary thing. Not to mention now you're going after Orochimaru of all people. His elder brother continued. Just remember. Itachi was interrupted as he broke out coughing. Sasuke winced, patting his brother on the back. You alright? That's getting worse. I'm you fine. Itachi shook his head. Caught something nasty while I was scouting the. That's what you said the last 2 times. Sasuke gave him a look. Have you tried going to Tsunade about it? Tried, sure. Itachi mumbled. He wiped some blood from the corner of his mouth and sighed. Anyway, good luck. Itachi didn't quite vanish, more blurred out the door. If Sasuke had had his Sharingan on, he'd have been able to track it, no problem. He wasn't sure if that meant he was getting faster, or, worryingly, that his brother was slowing down. He shook off the nasty thought as his father walked in through the door, a few seconds later. Are you alright, son? That was a nasty cough. I'm fine, Dad. Sasuke stood up, smiling. Must have caught something in Suna. Did you want help laying the table? Hey Sai. The root member, assassin, spy, torturer and otherwise bad egg turned around with a smile to see his boyfriend walking towards him. Good morning, Haku. The mist native walked forwards and gave him a quick kiss, before leaning back with his hands in his pockets. I hear you're replacing me on Team Kakashi. Or, well, I suppose it would be Team Yamato, now. You know the other new guy. Anbu captain, inherited the wood style somehow, experienced and talented. Sai listed off the things he was supposed to know. We've worked together before. I think we'll do well. Haku nodded, but something was obviously bothering him. Hey, Sai, you know your dark master. Sai winced. Please stop calling him that. Right, it's just. Haku met his eyes. There aren't any evil plans going on around this mission, right? And Sai said. No. You know, like a liar. Haku sighed, visibly relieved, and Sai immediately felt like shit. Thanks for reassuring me. Well, Sasuke and Naruto are my friends, you know. Actually, Haku's eyes took on a gleam. Tell you what, if you pull off this mission successfully, he leaned forwards and whispered something in Sai's ear. The pale boy's eyes widened to the size of saucers and, for the first time in years, a full-on blush appeared on his cheeks. You'll. Haku grinned. How will you get Ino? You know she'd jump at the chance to join in with that. Sai coughed, and straightened his posture. I look forward to it. Great. Haku clapped him on the shoulder and smiled. Send me a letter when you all get back, okay? Sai watched him jump away. He wondered, not for the first time, if it was even possible to avoid this particular command from Danzo. But there never had been before. Chapter 53. We'll burn that bridge too. Sigh. Naruto jumped forwards and crushed the boy in a hug. It's been ages. How ya been? I am fine. Thank you for asking. Leaning against Konoha's gate, Sasuke took his eyes off the pair and looked across at the other person with them. And you are? Yamato. The man inclined his head. A pleasure to meet you both. Sasuke squinted. You wouldn't happen to work for Root, would you? I used to, Yamato admitted, but of course that branch has been defunct for several years now. Of course. Sasuke grit his teeth. Hey Naruto. The other one's an adult sigh. Aw crap. Naruto released his hug. Did we have anyone seducing this one? No. Naruto waved his hand vaguely at Yamato. Friendship magic. Poof. You're a good guy. Yamato tilted his head. Quote. Thank you. Ignore him. Sasuke waved it off. You two understand the mission, right? Meet with Sasori's informant, extract information of Orochimaru's location, apprehend Hyuga Hinata and assassinate Orochimaru. Sai and Yamato recited, perfectly in sync with each other. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged glances. Yeah. Although really that's our mission. Naruto specified. Sasuke extrapolated. Your job is to follow a few paces behind, offer tactical info and compliments, and bail us out if we do something too stupid. Other than that, his grin turned a bit sharp. It's probably safer to stay out of our way. And then everyone trekked over to Tenchi Bridge and waited until the relevant day, but that's boring so nobody could be bothered to write about it. This was a terrible idea. Naruto hissed from the underbrush, as Yamato, disguised as Sasori, walked out onto Tenchi Bridge. Relax. Sasuke Genjutsu spoke back. We gave him a signal for when he needs our help. Besides, wood clones are like shadow clones but more durable, there's no way to tell Yamato apart from Sasori. Unless he attacks him. Sai casually pointed out. Well, yeah. Sasuke turned back to the bridge. Oh, look, it's that one asshole. Yahushi Kabuto, older but still with that shit-eating grin on his face, walked out onto the bridge. Master Sasori. He greeted. Good to see you, servant. Yamato replied in Sasori's voice, calmly. I trust Orochimaru is not here to accompany you. Kabuto chuckled. That old fool still has no idea I'm really working for you, I assure you. He should still be sitting alone in our hideout. Your hideout. Yamato trailed off. Yes, our hideout. Kabuto nodded. Now, do you have the package? Shit. Sasuke muttered. Of course. Yamato shifted. The package. The package. That I have. Yes. Which I am giving to you. Yes. There is a problem with that. Oh. The Sasori shell was visibly concerned. I lost it. Kabuto tilted his head. You lost the package. Yes. There were unforeseen complications. Really? Yes. Okay. Fair enough. In the brush, Naruto and Sasuke both exhaled. But what about the message? They both tensed again. The message. Kabuto was sweating. Of course. Kabuto smiled. I'm sure you couldn't have lost that. Yes. The message. The message. For me to give you. Yes. The message concocted specifically for me to tell you. Quote. Your message. Kabuto nodded. Quote. I changed it. Oh. Yes. Yamato nodded. And the new message is. Kabuto leaned in. Would you like me to bail you out and tell you I know you're not Sasori? Yes. Wait. What? Kabuto swept his hand forwards and smashed straight through the wooden construct, and Yamato was forced to leap backwards. Naruto moved to jump forwards, but Sai grabbed his arm. Wait. Yamato hasn't given us the signal yet. Teammates. I need help. Yamato shouted. That was the signal. Sai nodded, releasing Naruto. I fucking hate all of you. Sasuke jumped out of hiding and onto the bridge. Kabuto's face fell. Oh. You. Hey assface. Naruto grinned. How's your stomach doing? Fine, actually. Kabuto spat. But you've hurt me in other ways, Naruto-kun. Do you have any idea Any idea what you've done? Naruto blinked. Kabuto clenched his fist. I have had to listen to this teenage girl go on and on about you for 4 fucking years. He threw his arms into the air. Do you know how fucking great she thinks you are? Naruto this, Naruto that, Kami girl you're 16, get over your crush. Sasuke couldn't help but burst out laughing as Naruto went red in the face, and Kabuto immediately rounded on him. Oh, don't think you're an exception to the rule, Uchiha. I genuinely don't know which one of you she prefers. Do you have any idea how much she fucking respects you? She treats everyone in Hidden Sound like children, but you, oh, she'd probably saddle you with killing her fucking cousin if you asked her to trust you. I get the feeling there's a lot of pent-up anger here, Naruto interrupted, but can we get to the part where you're under arrest? Because I like that part. Kabuto opened his mouth. I'm afraid nobody will be arresting anybody today. All 5 froze. Moving at a perfectly leisurely pace, as though the world would wait for him, Orochimaru strolled across the bridge. Well, if it isn't the rejects. He remarked, stopping just ahead of Kabuto. We knew Sasori was dead the moment the seal in Kabuto's head stopped working, but I never would have thought it would be you that did him in. The snake Sanin crossed his arms. That was wood style, so you must be Yamato. One of my most successful experiments, except that I had to kill a bunch of children first, got kicked out of the village and lost all my stuff, and didn't even get wood style out of the deal. No clue why I actually did that, to be honest, it was a terrible idea. His expression clouded for a moment, before he turned to Naruto and Sasuke, smiling. And of course, you too. Biju no mates and the boy who didn't turn to the dark side when prompted. What a team. He clapped, slowly, as sarcastically as it was physically possible to clap. Naruto glared, eyes red. Where is she? Orochimaru leaned forwards. What was that? Where is she? Naruto growled. Don't you try and pretend you don't know who I'm talking about. Orochimaru tapped his chin theatrically. Perhaps, I know. You wouldn't happen to be talking about Little Miss Hinata. A circle of wood beneath Naruto's feet cracked. Naruto. Sasuke warned. Give her back. Naruto snarled, red chakra boiling up around him. Give her back. I'm afraid you misunderstand. I'm not keeping her here. In fact, seeing what she was living with, I'm not surprised she abandoned you. Seeing the shock on Naruto's face, Orochimaru laughed. Oh, poor child, had you convinced yourself it was some dark manipulation on my part? Allow me to shatter such preconceptions. His slitted yellow eyes glinted. Hinata didn't want to stay with you. And considering the way you lost to her, you don't deserve to keep her. Naruto's fingers tightened on the bridge. Kyuubi. Power. Do you honestly expect me to put out for some doomed attempt to show him the strength of your convictions or some other such? No. I'm going to kill him. Well, why didn't you say so? 2 glowing red tails sprouted from Naruto's coccyx. Without any further warning, he blitzed forwards and hit Orochimaru so hard he went crashing away through the trees. Orochimaru was, annoyingly, fine. But that was okay. It just meant Naruto had to hit him more. He charged forwards on all 4s and tried to bury another fist in the snake's face, but Orochimaru swerved out of the way. Naruto lashed out with a kick, and that missed too, so he swept his tails around and batted the Sanin through another tree. Orochimaru landed, vomited up a snake, and hurled it straight for Naruto. It disintegrated entirely on the chakra cloak, and Naruto reached out with a clawed hand for his opponent. Orochimaru jumped back out of the way, but wasn't prepared for a glowing red claw of chakra to extend out from Naruto's arm and latch onto him. Naruto grinned, and ripped an arm off. Back on the bridge, Yamato started making hand seals. He's lost control. If I use the wood style, I should be able to. Nah, he's fine. Sasuke reached into his bag of popcorn kernels and heated them up with fire style, popping them. He's pissed, sure, but he's still in control. Yamato squinted at the juggernaut slowly blowing a massive crater in the forest. He doesn't look in control. Naruto spent 3 years learning to control the 9 tails. Sasuke stuffed the popcorn into his mouth. ECN Comtro UCK to tree. Pardon. Sasuke swallowed. 1 tails he's fine. 2 tails he's mostly fine. 3, there was a boom, 3 tails, which he just activated. He's bitchy but he can still think. Sasuke held a handful out. Yamato gave him a look, but took the popcorn. Back in the battle, a second Orochimaru, presumably a snake clone, slithered out of his empty arm socket. Ew. Naruto sprinted and punched it, but it disintegrated into more snakes which tried to wrap him up. While he was busy dealing with those, by flexing until they set on fire, Orochimaru walked up and socked him in the face. Amusing, I'll admit. Orochimaru shook the hand he'd punched with. It was blistered and burned. But insufficient. I'm playing with you, child. I will kill you. Naruto got to his feet, teeth bared. Oh, but you won't. Orochimaru clapped gleefully. Not like that, anyway. If this is all you've got, you'll never be strong enough to get Hinata back. Naruto's claws dug into the ground. Kyuubi. 4 tails. Version 2. He could feel one of the Kyuubi's eyes open from within its cage. It had powered him up to this point while effectively dozing. Really? You know you can't concentrate enough yin chakra to control that much, right? I don't want control. I want his head. Hey. Whatever. Don't say I didn't warn you. The power flooded in. Naruto screamed. Sasuke paused, watching a pulse of red energy tear through the forest. Okay. Now he's lost control. Yamato started forwards. Then let's go. Sasuke grimaced. I mean. Yamato turned to him. Why do you hesitate? Sasuke gestured. You see those 4 tails? That means he's using 4 tails of the Biju's power. Which is less than 20%, apparently, but still. Not 4/9. Kabuto asked, helping himself to some popcorn. No, annoyingly. It's exponential. Sasuke sighed. But still a big deal. And that black-red glowing outline around his massive elongated body. That means he's in the version 2 cloak. Which makes him even stronger. Your point? Yamato asked. My point, Sasuke winced, is that yeah he's currently a mindless monster, but he might actually kill Orochimaru here. Yamato paused. How much popcorn do you have left? I sealed like 4 bags in scrolls. Sasuke chuckled. Then he looked across at Kabuto. You good with this? Oh, I think my master's going to win. Kabuto shrugged. So as far as he's concerned, I'm doing everything in my power to keep you all from intervening. Got it. See, I think Naruto's going to win, so as far as he's concerned, I'm doing everything in my power to keep you from intervening. So I suppose we both just sit back and watch. Sasuke nodded appreciatively. Sounds good. More popcorn. Please. Back in the crater, Orochimaru picked his mangled body up from the floor. Well, he stretched. That was a little more effective. My point still stands though. I'm mostly just letting you attack to see what you're capable of. 4 tails Naruto was beyond speech at this point. It roared up to the sky, and spheres of red and blue chakra began to form around him. Oh. Orochimaru tilted his head. Oh. Sasuke squinted to get a better look. Oh. Said the 9 tails, in Naruto's head. You do realize you can't make a Biju bomb in only the cloak, right? Naruto didn't respond. The motes of light congregated into a sphere of energy, and then the 4 tails avatar snapped it up into its mouth. The ground beneath it cracked. Oh. Shit. Orochimaru remarked. That's more like it. Triple Rashomon. He slapped his palms to the ground. Hey. Sasuke muttered, mostly to himself. Anyone remember that one rumor flying around about Naruto after the Chunin exams? He's only gone and fucking done it. The light condensed inside the red beast's mouth. 3 tall locked gates appeared between it and Orochimaru. Fucking laser beam release. Sasuke breathed. The beast opened its mouth and a massive blast of red-white energy beamed out of it, disintegrating the first gate, tearing apart the second, and smashing the third into shrapnel, blowing Orochimaru back, but leaving him unharmed by the chakra that was busy smashing holes in the landscape. Naruto wasn't done though. The Sannin's eyes widened and he was forced to jump away as the beast charged forward and fired another blast from its mouth, and then another, and then. Okay. That's enough. Orochimaru let some irritation onto his face. His neck stretched up stupidly high into the air, and then a physics-defyingly long sword jutted out of his mouth. It extended meter after meter, stabbing down at Naruto and pinning him to the ground, then dragging him across the floor. Naruto howled, but was unable to stop himself being thrown back over the canyon and pinned to the other side. Jish ish do short of Kusanagi. Orochimaru gargled. It can shro anything. Naruto grabbed the sword, yanked it up out of his chest, and buried it in the cliff beside him. Calm dishun's a klee. Thuk. Orochimaru sighed, and retracted the sword. Naruto jumped up onto the bridge again, disrupting the card game that had been going on between its three occupants. He growled, threateningly. Alright, easy. Sasuke held his palms up, calmingly. You wanna go back in or do you want us to help out? Avatar boiling, Naruto's white eyes narrowed. The glow began to charge in his mouth. Aw shit, muttered Kabuto. Yamato held his hand out and began chanting, Hokage style, Elder Sealing. No time. Get behind me. Sasuke darted in front of both of them. Naruto opened his mouth, and another beam of energy blasted forwards, this time at his team. Sasuke's Sharingan flashed. Red light met purple. Yamato and Kabuto gaped as a glowing purple ribcage sprung to life around Sasuke, which stood firm even when faced with a beam that was wider than the bridge. They both huddled together in the middle, as the heat licked around the edges of the bones. Okay. That's it. Sasuke grit his teeth. Now this is time out. The beam cut out, and Kyuubi Naruto had a brief moment to look surprised before Sasuke sprinted forwards, Sharingan staring right into its eyes. The Uchiha appeared in the middle of a dust storm. Black and red particulates swirled through the air of an unknown environment. Gritting his teeth, but deciding it might be smart not to close his eyes, he fought his way forwards. The clouds became thicker, and the wind grew more intense, until eventually he was unable to progress further. There was a form, hunched over and in pain, at the edge of his vision. Naruto. He called out, over the wind. Two red eyes appeared in the air in front of him. Uchiha. It snarled. You dare to trespass upon my Jinchurikis. Real cool. Don't care. He stared right into the eyes. You've had your fun, now it's bedtime. Go to your room. He channeled his chakra through his Sharingan, in the specific way he'd been taught. The clouds around him slowed, shifted and gathered. Oh, for fuck's sake. The Kyuubi didn't get to finish its sentence. Its cloud of influence was corralled by an invisible force, and pushed backwards 100 meters or so behind a set of tall pillars. The surroundings that remained weren't that bad actually. A domed blue sky, trees, cliffs and grassy plains. Everything seemed a little flat, like it had been drawn by someone not quite comfortable with their pencil. Beneath Sasuke's feet was a fast but shallow stream, and laying in that stream a few meters ahead of him. Naruto. He ran forwards, hoisting his teammate out of the water. Hey, buddy. Come on. Talk to me. Naruto cracked an eye open, and groaned. Sasuke. What in the? You let out 4 tails and nearly killed us all. Sasuke summarized, succinctly. Oh, crap. Naruto rubbed his head with one hand and got to his feet. Ah crap, I remember. Anyone dead? Nobody. I used the Susanoo to stop you lasering Yamato. That thing you've never used before. Yeah, beginnerous Ruku, I guess. Sasuke looked around. What is this place? My mindscape. Naruto replied, with a proud look in his eye. Designed it myself. The Kyuubi was complaining all he had to look at was blackness and a sewer. Sasuke gave his friend a weird look. That thing just tried to kill us and you do its landscaping for it. It is a he. Came a snarl from the distance. And I will not accept responsibility for Kit's little rant. They both looked across. The Kyuubi's cage had been extended significantly, and the bars were further apart than they had been, but the fox was still thoroughly trapped behind them. You're saying it's not your fault. Naruto rounded on him. It was your power. Kyuubi's head pressed against the bars. I don't want control. I want his head. He recited. Those were your words, Kit. Or do you mean to say I can't trust your word? But you can't just. Naruto protested, but. You told me you could handle it. The fox cut across him. And that you would accept the consequences if you couldn't. I don't care if you kill your friends, Kit. Especially little Madara over here. Sasuke frowned, recognizing the name. But don't expect me to give you power, and then come whining to me like it's my fault when you can't keep your act together. The fox leaned back and rolled over, turning its back to them. Either grow a pair, or use your own power. Naruto took a step back, then looked down, shifting in place. Sasuke sighed. Come on. Let's get back into the real world. Orochimaru's still out there, Yamato could be trouble, and, he paused, scrolling through the last few minutes of memories. Wait a minute. Where the hell is Sai? Chapter 54. How many levels of betrayal? Ow. Ow. Fuck. Itachi was not fucking kidding about the Susanoo hurting. Sasuke continued to roll around on his back on the mostly destroyed Tenchi Bridge. Naruto, knowing full well his teammate could be on his feet in an instant, completely ignored him, turning to Yamato. So, to recap, we didn't kill Orochimaru. Kabuto got away. Sasuke's ruined his eyes some more cleaning up my mess. We're no closer to finding Hinata, and Sai defected. Yeah, we kinda screwed this one up. Sasuke admitted. Not quite. Yamato corrected them. He got confused glances in return. Are you both aware of Sai's penchant for lying almost constantly? Sasuke and Naruto looked at each other, and nodded. Yeah, yep. Uh-huh. He once lied about his favorite color. Who does that? Quite. Yamato surmised. But in this case, it works in our favor. You mean he hasn't betrayed us horribly? Naruto asked, hopefully. No. Yamato smiled. You both know of his association with Danzo, and of Danzo's association with Orochimaru. A treacherous one, but not one we can call him out on openly. That about sums it up. Sasuke nodded. Well, before the mission, Sai and I came up with a plan. Yamato explained. If the situation arose, he would defect to Orochimaru's side, claiming to have information from Danzo. And then lead us straight to their hideout. The Anbu captain held out a handful of seeds. He swallowed one of these before leaving. I can track him to the ends of Fire Country if I have to. That maniac. Sasuke chuckled. When he gets back, Haku is gonna. Actually, let's not go there. But you know where he is. Yamato nodded. He hasn't moved in the last 30 minutes. How long were we out? Naruto checked. As long as the author needed you to be. Alright then. Let's go get our teammate. As long as the author needs it to be later. Sai wriggled in his restraints. Orochimaru. After bringing him to the base and hearing out his message from Danzo, it had been a real message. One of the secondary objectives had said something along the lines of, nothing personal, but, and immediately had him tied up and sat in a room on his own. Fair enough, he supposed. You don't want your ally of dubious alliitude running freely around the base. Especially not when there might be other attackers on their way. There was a distant boom, and shouting, and Sai smiled. A paper snake slithered out from one sleeve, and began biting its way through the ropes. A few minutes later saw Sai running stealthily through the hideout. Naruto and Ko were certainly causing one hell of a distraction. Nobody appeared to molest him as he traversed the long, dimly lit corridors. It took him a few tries to find what he was looking for, but eventually he came upon a door that was signed, "Don't announce yourself. If you are wanted, I will invite you in," and figured he was in the right place. Slowly, soundlessly, he opened the door. The bedroom was impeccably maintained. The floor was perfectly clean, as was the modest desk set against one wall, and the bookshelf stood next to it. The bed, admittedly, was a total mess. The thing was king-sized and had 2 separate duvets and 5 pillows strewn about it. There was one lump in the bed that could not be accounted for with blankets, however. And it moved. There was a shuffling, and then a head of navy blue hair appeared, followed by a bare back and 2 arms that stretched over the head. Sai saw half a smile on the turned-away face. Hello again, future Hokage. The girl said. Hello, Miss Hinata. Sai replied, politely. She froze. You. Daughter not Naruto. No. Sai. Right. The one with the dark master. Sai winced. Yes, that's me. Okay. Well, I'll just go ahead and die of embarrassment. Hinata, still not turning to look at him, put one hand to her head and massaged her temples. This is why I should always lead with the Byakugan. Daughter, you here to rescue me? I'm afraid not. I'm sorry, Haku. Hating every moment, he directed a group of paper snakes to slither forwards and wrap her up. Master Danzo has ordered your execution. Please die in such a way that your DNA is salvageable. Oh, for. Hinata sighed. Alright, looks like we're doing this. Ahem. She stood up fully. Sai was able to view a lot more backside than he really should have for a brief moment, before Hinata inhaled deeply. Paused. Opened her mouth. There was a catastrophic boom in the distance, rubble raining from the ceiling to accompany the distant hollering of, "Body once told me the world was gonna roll me, Hinata. Naruto and Sasuke shouted, both dropping a limp sound nin and chasing towards the sound. Yamato put up a wood release wall between them and a few other guards, and ran off after them. It didn't take them long to find a massive crater, which was pretty obviously the right place. Stood in the center of the crater was Sai, scroll out and eyes narrowed. The rest of the team immediately grouped up with him, and looked up to follow his gaze. Alright, there we go. Hinata smiled down at them. We're all here, finally. Hi guys. The two other members of Team 7 shared a glance, not entirely sure what to say. Naruto started. Hey, Hinata, you've. His gaze dipped below her face for a split second, grown. She had 3 years and Hinata had improved significantly in terms of height and in other places. Naruto briefly made a note that she was the perfect size between Sakura and Tsunade before mentally kicking himself and telling himself to focus. Hinata's hair had grown out a little, now reaching just below her shoulders, and she had apparently borrowed Sasuke's penchant for black clothing. She wore a pair of black slacks over her legs, and a vest thing that left her arms and back entirely bare. Oh right, yeah, wings. Signs of Orochimaru's influence were visible too. The curse mark was still there on one shoulder, and one of the rope belt things, in navy blue, of course, and not purple, was tied around her waist. She was observing both of them, too, and frowned slightly. Naruto, did you work fur from my old jacket into your clothes? I mean, yeah. Naruto shifted. Is that bad? I get it if you wanted. No, it's fine, it looks good, she placated. The fur gives it the whole Beastmaster vibe, I like it. There was another awkward silence. This is awkward, Sasuke remarked. I know. Hinata sighed. I had this one opening line I'd been planning for a while to break the ice, but then Sai tried to kill me. Sai what? Sai took that moment to throw a brace of paper shuriken at her, which she dodged with minimal effort. Sai tried again, but this set were caught by Sasuke, who glared at him. Sai, what the fuck are you? Then his eyes widened as a thick vine sprouts from the ground beneath him and hurled him away. Yamato. Naruto span on their captain. What, why? Danzo has ordered her execution. Yamato replied, impassively, before conjuring more wooden structures. Oh, for the love of. Sasuke freed himself and charged at Yamato, and Naruto was forced to dive between another set of kunai thrown by Sai. Moments later, there was an all-out brawl going on in the crater. Hinata held up a hand. Would you two like some help, or? No, we're good. Naruto slammed a fist into a giant ink crab. Just give us a few minutes, okay. He turned to his opponent and glared. Sai, what in the actual fuck? What does this make you, a triple or a quadruple agent? I'm sorry. Sai replied, genuine anguish on his face. But Danzo. Really? Your Dark Master. Can you stop calling him that? It was the first time Sai had shouted in Naruto's presence. A herd of ink zebras stampeded towards Naruto, who summoned a squad of shadow clones to restrain them with chakra chains. I don't want to do this. It hurts. But I don't have a choice. There were genuine tears on Sai's face. Naruto glowered. There's always a. No, you don't understand. I don't have a choice. Sai's voice was strained. Desperate. Like there was some deeper meaning to his words he didn't quite know how to convey. Like. Naruto gasped. Sasuke. Genjutsu. Having heard the whole conversation, the Uchiha immediately caught on. He launched a great fireball that set all of Yamato's wooden structures alight, then ran across to switch places with Naruto. The Uzumaki fired off a wind jutsu that fanned the flames, disintegrating everything that had been set alight, as Sasuke immediately closed into sword fighting range with Sai. His intention wasn't a duel, however. Sai was Anbu good at genjutsu, but not Uchiha good, and all it took was a few seconds of eye contact to pull Sai right out of the fight and into his own mind. The boy hardly even resisted, falling to his knees in the blank mindscape Sasuke constructed. Please. Just kill him. You know Team 7 once made an official pact to never listen if someone says that. Sasuke remarked, idly, ignoring Sai entirely. Now then. Images flew in front of his face. Tragic childhood. Okay. Romantic moments, all well and good, root secrets. Oh, now your brain's resisting me. And entirely without your conscious input, may I add. I'm not in control. Sai sobbed. I wouldn't be doing this if I could stop myself. Haku made me promise. Oh yeah, Sasuke replied, still browsing through memories. What did he? His eyes widened as he reached Sai's last conversation with Haku, and the images Sai's imagination had immediately conjured. Wow. Yeah. With. On the Hokage monument. Swat, he said. Kami. You kinky little. Sasuke shook his head, and focused. Right. Anyway. It looks like Naruto was right on the money, this is genjutsu. But. Wow. Spreading out in front of Sasuke was a growing network of red lines in the emptiness. A visualization tool, but an effective one. This thing is big. You're not just under some compulsion here, Sai, it's multi-layered, multifaceted, complicated. And you don't remember anyone doing this to you. I don't remember a lot of things. Sai admitted, getting up to stand with Sasuke and watch the growing web. This was the most layers of lies anyone had ever penetrated with him. He felt incredibly exposed. Sometimes I lose whole weeks, then get snippets back when I need them. Yeah, this thing's so deeply embedded it's probably been partly responsible for your day-to-day decision-making process. I've blocked 6 different impulses for you to kill yourself while I've been in here. No wait. 7. Kurenai couldn't do this. Dad couldn't do this, I couldn't do this, the only one I know this good at genjutsu is Itachi. Sasuke took a step back. The pattern of red squiggles, when viewed as a whole, took the shape of a 3-tomoed Sharingan. He shook his head, and dismissed the image. Doesn't matter. Point is you're fucked up bad. Can you? Fix it? Sai asked. Hopefully. I'm currently the only thing allowing you to consider fixing it, Sasuke replied, wryly, but no. I can't dispel this. The Sharingan is great at offensive genjutsu, not so special at removing them. The best I can do is layer something simpler on top that slams the brakes on its commands after you've already comprehended them. Of course I have no idea what the consequences would be, there might be delay time, you might find yourself confused, impulsive, you'll have to actively decide not to dispel mine even though you're fully aware of it. Please. Sai begged. Nothing could be worse than this. Sasuke looked at him seriously, then nodded. All right. Brace yourself. These next few seconds are going to feel weird. Sasuke's focus emerged from Sai's mind, and into his senses faded the sound of go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, along with a regular thwacking noise. After clearing his vision, he saw Naruto crouched atop Yamato, punching the Anbu repeatedly in the face. After a few moments, when he was obviously unconscious, Naruto sat up with a groan. Freakin' would release and it's freakin' sturdy users. Okami, we're gonna have to explain this to Tsunade. Danzo's being an ass. That's all we need. Sasuke turned to Sai. You good? Sai's mouth worked. Shimura Danzo is the head of Root. And I hate him. Oh, it is working. He looked up at Sasuke. Do you accept life debts? No, but I order you to henceforth follow the Team 7 motto. Always try not to be too much an asshole. Hinata recited from above them, swinging her legs on the side of the crater. I remember when we came up with that, we were very specific on the wording. She paused. Oh, are you guys done? Can we get on with the? Yeah, we're done. We're done. Naruto stood up and stretched. Ah, great, where were we? I don't think we'd really started. Yeah, it's like. Oh wait. No, I got it. Naruto held a hand up. Hinata. She tilted her head. Yes. Please come back to Konoha. No. Fuck. Hinata winced. I know. I'm sorry. I asked you to trust me and you came all this way. How much longer? Naruto asked, in a desperate tone. Seriously. It's been almost 4 years, are you not done? You know very well what I have to finish here, mister. Hinata shot back, pointing a finger accusingly. Hinata, we will help kill your cousin. Sasuke interceded. Like, he's a criminal, you don't have to be a bad guy to do it, we'll go with you and. Is this a standard conversation between you guys? Sai put up a hand, like a confused student watching the teachers talk. Sadly, very normal, Sasuke admitted, grimly. Alright, look, Hinata's pupils flicked to the corner of her eyes, an impulse Naruto and Sasuke recognized as her Byakugan spotting something. Oh perfect. Rochi's coming back. Tell you what, there's one last thing I need to finish up with him, then I'll kill him, then I'll come back and we'll go get Neji together. Sound good? Naruto and Sasuke exchanged glances. Fine. Fine. But it better be a quick thing. Hinata stood up, and made a little bow. A week or so, tops. Thank you. Now, what to do about? Screw it, attack me. Huh. He still thinks I think Konoha is hell. She explained. It needs to look like we're fighting when he shows up, so attack me. Sasuke smirked a little. Both of us. You know we've gotten a lot stronger, right? She gave them dead eyes. Oh right. Egos. Tell you what. Naruto doesn't use the Kyuubi, Sasuke doesn't use the Mangekyo, and I won't use Kirin. How do you know about? What's Kirin? And if you win, I'll come home immediately. She incentivized. They both shut up, and attacked. The two easily Anbu-level ninja crashed into Hinata's position in a moment, but she darted out of the way, appearing in front of Sai and delivering a sharp strike to his head that put him immediately unconscious. Then she turned around and caught a fist in one hand and a sword in the other, twisting both away. Naruto and Sasuke began a frenzied joint taijutsu assault. Hinata looked a little overwhelmed, for a moment, before with a flash of blue light her skin tone deepened and her hair flared outwards. The first gate. Now she was the one putting pressure on the two, and her issues from a few years ago had apparently vanished, implementing the gentle fist alongside the increased strength with zero difficulty. With nothing but a glance to communicate, Naruto shoved forwards with his arms up to bear the brunt of Hinata's palms as Sasuke jumped up and backwards. A few hand seals, and electricity raced forwards from his fingers. Hinata paused from her repeated bludgeoning of Naruto's forearms to make some signs of her own, and the sparks caught on her palms and spun around her, then outwards. Naruto was blasted off his feet. You want to use lightning release? Against me? Hinata asked, with an amused smile. Sasuke glared. Great fireball jutsu. Well sure, for old time's sake. Heavenly spin. Hinata twisted, and the dome of wind appeared around her. The size of the resultant firewhirl was significantly larger than it had been in their early years. Larger, perhaps, than the one conjured in the fight between Itachi and Neji. But here they weren't the only ones in the fight. Naruto summoned a sextet of shadow clones and surrounded Hinata's dome and launched adamantine chains at it. Hinata, being Hinata, saw it and responded. There was a sonic boom, and a concentrated blast of absolutely nothing shot out of the dome. Where it hit the flames, they winked out of existence, and the concussive force took Sasuke in the chest and knocked him to the ground. 8 trigrams, vacuum palm. She explained. Keyword is vacuum. I could have put you unconscious with that. Then the chains from the Naruto whipped in towards her. Still in the first gate, she dodged, jumping up and grabbing the chains in an attempt to yank the Naruto off their feet, but they had learned some tricks in the last 3 years, sticking their feet to the floor with chakra. So instead, Hinata pulled herself towards them, earning startled cries as she lay into the doppelgangers. Sasuke jumped to his feet, scowling. All right then, you asked for this. Chidori. A few hand seals, and the lightning blade sprung to life in his hand. Across the crater, Hinata was pummeling her way through the shadow clones, and at their end Naruto had had a similar idea to his teammate. Now capable of doing so without a clone's help, he conjured the Rasengan in his palm. The two charged Hinata together. She did not, as they anticipated, try to dodge. She didn't even make a Chidori of her own. She stood there between them and held her arms out. Lion fists. She called, calmly. The two blue heads, blazing with chakra, appeared over her hands. And when Naruto and Sasuke came in from either side, she caught the jutsu. There was an explosion of force, but she didn't budge, locking her fists around the two techniques as her hair whipped about in the resulting wind, and over a few seconds the Rasengan slowed in its spin and disintegrated, and the Chidori lost its glow. Then, as the two boys stared at her open-mouthed, she yanked both off balance. 8 trigrams, 128 palms. She recited, and peppered both with strikes. When Orochimaru walked up to the lip of the crater, it was to see Hinata stood over 2 unconscious and 2 paralyzed bodies. Darling, you have got to stop blowing our cover, Orochimaru sighed, This is the second hideout we've had to move out of because of you. My bad. She apologized. Should I kill them? What? Shouted Naruto from his position on the floor, wriggling a little. No, we need them to kill the Akatsuki. Orochimaru sighed. Should we be saying that right in front of them? Hinata asked. Sure. Orochimaru shrugged. Hey, Leaf Ninja. Go kill the Akatsuki. Got it. Also go fuck yourself. Sasuke replied. Well, this was a fun adventure. Hinata jumped up to stand with Orochimaru. I'll see you all later. Try not to die until we next meet, alright? Orochimaru touched her shoulder, and they both vanished into flame. There was silence in the crater for a while. Shit. Sasuke summarized. Shit. Naruto agreed. Chapter 55. Aftermath 6. Petulance. Shimura Danzo sat at his desk, slowly and methodically working through paperwork. His was not the same as the Hokage's. For one, almost everything he wrote down would have to be burned before it ever left the room. He was in one of very few locations in Leaf he felt private enough to commit to ink his many plans. Which was why it was a little surprising when the door got kicked off its hinges. He looked up slowly to see Uzumaki Naruto walk in, with a body over his shoulder and an expression on his face indicating he was 100% done. May I help you? Danzo asked, calmly. Naruto heaved the unconscious form of Yamato onto Danzo's desk with a loud thud. Control your minions better, asshole. And keep your dirty claws out of Sai. He shot, before walking back out the door. The forms of a few similarly knocked out root operatives, Danzo's guards, were lying in the corridor outside. Danzo pushed Yamato off the desk, and went back to his paperwork. Kakashi sat in his hospital bed, looked up from his orange-covered book to see a furious-looking Naruto and Sasuke storm into his room. Those are the faces, he remarked, of two ninja who have been quite thoroughly humbled. She kicked our asses. Naruto snarled. Destroyed us. Sasuke growled. Fucking dismantled us. She. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Hinata. Naruto bit out, pacing. I thought I'd gotten stronger. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty good now. And then she just finesses me and Sasuke at once. Well, as ninja, the best thing to do is evaluate the experience and see what you did wrong and what you can improve on. Kakashi offered, turning the page in his book. Gee, where did it go wrong? Sasuke threw his hands into the air. Maybe it was the part where she blocked the Rasengan and the Chidori at the same time. Okay. Kakashi shrugged. So how do you fix this mistake next time? Get a bigger Rasengan. Answered Naruto, at the same time as Sasuke replied, get a bigger Chidori. Kakashi sighed. I was hoping for something along the lines of, learn to better yourselves, don't rest on your laurels, don't get too confident. We're shadow clones. They both interrupted in unison. The real Naruto and Sasuke are off training. Sasuke said. That's not quite. With Guy. Kakashi shut his mouth. Ah. It is always good to see you. Guy shouted, grinning from ear to ear as the pair approached him. If possible, you have grown even more youthful since last we met. How may I help you? We need training. Naruto explained. I am humbled by your request, but I'm certain that my great rival Kakashi could better. Lee-style training. Sasuke extrapolated. There was a pause. You do know. We know it will hurt. We don't care. Anyone who knew Guy would tell you he didn't have a malicious bone in his body. But his grin in that moment was a very scary thing. Well, now that you mention it. Yikes. Kakashi remarked. He closed his book, and sat up in bed. So, new jutsu. You are aware that the Rasengan is A rank, right? Yeah, so we want something S rank. Naruto replied, as though it was the most obvious thing in the world. Kakashi hummed. Some people would call it unsafe to teach children techniques of that magnitude. He got confused stares in return. Yeah, I don't get it either. So, he threw off the covers and stood up. Sasuke blinked. Aren't you still? Oh, I've been recovered for the last week, but while I'm in bed I get free food and Guy doesn't make me train with him. Kakashi smiled at them through his mask. Now then, manifest a Rasengan. They quickly complied. Naruto held it out triumphantly. Boom. Done. But I don't know what your plan is for Sasuke. He turned his head. Sasuke was holding out a swirling blue ball with a guilty expression. You can Naruto pointed a finger between Sasuke and his technique. When did you learn the Rasengan? The Uchiha coughed. I'd like to say that it took me years of intense practice, but what actually happened was I watched Kakashi do it once. The Sharingan is bullshit, Naruto whispered, looking incredibly crestfallen. Tell me about it. Kakashi agreed, holding out his own Rasengan. Now then, this is the most powerful jutsu in my possession. The thing about it is that it's pure chakra and shape transformation. No yin, yang or elemental effects. As I imagine Jiraiya told you at some point, Naruto, the fourth Hokage developed this jutsu based off the Biju bomb, and tried to apply a nature transformation to it. Keyword is tried. He wasn't able to do it before he died in the Kyuubi attack. Didn't you? Sasuke began to interrupt. I tried to apply lightning release to it, but couldn't. I made the Chidori by accident in the attempt, which is why I don't think that would make a good starting point. If you want a stronger jutsu, you'll have to succeed where me and the fourth failed. So no pressure. Fire. Sasuke decided, after a pause. Lightning is Hinata's only element, and hers outclasses mine by a long shot. It's time I went back to my Uchiha roots. Wind. Naruto decided, soon after. Because, I don't have any other elements. And since Sasuke doesn't have wind, he won't be able to copy this one. Kakashi chuckled. I have to warn you, it won't exactly be easy. The fourth mastered the flying thunder god, but even he couldn't do this. Sensei has a point. Sasuke reminded his teammate. I know you did the Rasengan in a week, but you can't assume this is gonna be that simple. It's a bit of a stretch to think we'll be done before Hinata gets back. Naruto nodded, thinking hard. You have a point. But I think I know how we're going to do it. Oh yeah, how? Naruto looked his teammate dead in the eye, and uttered two words. Race you. 1 second. 2 seconds. And then both ninja vanished out the door. Haku knocked on the door. Come in. The response was immediate. He sighed, braced himself, and entered. Haku. How are you? Mei Terumi stood up immediately. Haku winced and prepared himself as the woman stood up, walked around her desk and moved in for an incredibly sloppy kiss on his cheeks. You really do not need to do that every time you see me. Haku grit his teeth. Come on, you know you love it. I really don't. Haku kept his expression under control. What was it you needed, ma'am? I was told it was important. Always straight to business with you, Haku. I like that in a man. Mei backed up and sat up on her desk, legs crossed. Her gaze darkened a little. The Sanbi is gone. Haku gulped. The three tails. How? An attack. Mei sighed. After Yagura's unfortunate accident, we moved the three tails to a new host. That host was killed not 2 weeks ago. We don't know who or why. The few surviving witnesses say they saw black cloaks with red clouds. That is not good. Haku replied. I have similar news from Konoha. The one tails was recently extracted from the cage, only a few days before you lost the three. Same culprits. Mei grimaced. The Kyuubi. Safe. For now. But I'd hazard that they've already taken the 2 tails, maybe more. I just didn't think they'd move so fast. Haku started pacing, stressed. How's the 6 tails? Safe. For now. Mei echoed. We have its Jinchuriki well under guard. Is that what you wanted me to help with? Not at all. Mei stood up. I want you on the hunt. Haku blinked. Wait. Hunt. Wait. Me. I'd hate to stroke your ego, darling, but you're one of the strongest jonin in Mist right now. Mei purred. And we aren't letting the people who did this get away with it. I want my Biju back, and if possible I want the Ikibi and Nibi as compensation. Haku blanched. That's rude, immature, possibly a declaration of war, bold. But I'm not sure it'll be that simple. We have no idea where the Akatsuki are keeping the Biju, and every member we've encountered so far has been an S-class missing nin. 2 of them laid siege to the whole of Suna. I'm not sure any squad fast enough to catch them will be strong enough to take them down. If you let me contact Konoha. We don't need Konoha, was what Mei said, but Haku heard, I'm not sharing with Tsunade. The cage's smile turned sweet. We have you. With respect, ma'am, you might lose me. Well, I doubt I have to tell you that risk is part of the job. Mei dismissed. Of course I'd let you stay in Mist if you had a reason. If you felt an urge to settle down, perhaps. Oh, you sly bitch. This was not the first time Mei had tried to push something similar onto Haku. Nor the second, nor the fifth, not even the 10th. He wasn't sure which was worse, her trying to set him up with some stranger, who was obviously also not interested, or her coming onto him herself, where she was obviously much less turned on by him than she was by the idea of 3 different nature release bloodlines in their kids. And now she was trying to threaten him into it with death. Wonderful. Inner Zabuza, what do I do? Haku asked. Kill the Mizukage, said Inner Zabuza. Not helpful right now. Haku shot back. Not complaining, ma'am, just pointing it out. He said, aloud. I'll go. But I'm taking the Anbu. You can have some Jonin. Mei countered. We only have a few Anbu left after that one time a guy in a mask came in and killed them all, and those are required to guard the 6 tails. You know what? I'll just do it myself. Haku sighed, and squared his shoulders. BRB. He bowed, turned on his heel, and stormed out of the office. Deidara sat down heavily at bar, somewhere in some village or other. You look like shit, the bartender remarked. Oh yeah, guess how I feel. Deidara gestured vaguely at something alcoholic, and the bartender chuckled and got to work. Relax, Missy. You're not the first blonde lady to come in here looking like a train wreck. Although the last one was a lot bustier. I'm not a. Deidara scowled. You know what? Whatever. He grabbed the glass when it was passed to him. Blondes, am I right? Sighed the figure in an orange mask sat to his left. Yeah, tell me about it. Deidara sighed back. Then he almost jumped out of his chair. What the who the fucking Toby? Saw dude. Toby replied. Why the hell are you here? Deidara hissed, looking around. Toby was sat there in full Akatsuki uniform, but nobody seemed to particularly care. He gasped. Senpai. You didn't miss me. Miss you, we've never met in person. Well, I missed you. Toby admitted, looking down dejectedly. Deidara didn't know how he looked dejected in the mask, but he was doing it. Before today I lied awake at night, thinking of you, hoping that one day. Alright, I get it. Deidara shuddered. Missed you too. But seriously, why are you here? Duh. Toby kicked his feet up on the bar. The bartender glared at him, but didn't push it. Starting today, I am your new partner. Deidara paled. No. Yep. No. No. Why not? I asked for you specifically. Deidara grimaced. You know what? Whatever. Just stay out of my way, okay? No problemo. I will be like a ghost in the night. You won't even see me, it'll be like I'm some sort of ninja. Some sort, yeah. Deidara was figuratively shitting bricks. Nobody knew anything about Toby. Like, anything. One day, Pain had showed up with this masked lunatic trailing behind him, said that he was part of the Akatsuki now, and that had been that. And now he was focusing his madness on Deidara. Great. Alright, fine. Our next target is the Sanbi, it lives somewhere in Hidden Mist. Nah, I already took care of that. What? Yeah, Mist was on the way here, so I already sealed the 3 tails. He was cool, had all these spiky bits. You already? Right, okay. Deidara gulped. Nobody had ever seen Toby fight, either. So what are we doing now? Well, Big Boss Pain gave me 2 jobs to do on the way back. 1, he wanted me to stop for groceries, and 2, call in with his ex. What? Deidara wasn't sure how many times he'd said that in the last 5 minutes, but it was still appropriate. Orochimaru. Toby explained, brightly. We're going to go assassinate him. Hinata knocked on the door, and upon hearing a board, enter, she opened it and walked through. Hinata. Dear. Good to see you. Orochimaru smiled. He was currently sat in bed, with a drip attached to his arm. How was the moving process? Tolerable. Hinata shrugged. Any dank cave can be home if it's where your heart is. Quite. Orochimaru chuckled, though it turned into a cough. Kabuto stood in the corner of the room fiddling with chemicals. Immediacy rushed over, but Orochimaru waved him off, limply. I'm fine, Kabuto. Calm down. You're not. Hinata remarked, calmly. Her Byakugan traced briefly across his vitals. Those arms are getting worse. How bad was your fight with Naruto? Bad. He admitted, with a scowl. Your old teammate's tenant is remarkably powerful. And with most of my jutsu sealed, I was unable to effectively corral it. And when you use your snake body techniques, it accelerates the decay. Hinata winced. Her master's arms had started turning purple again. Indeed, he admitted. A moment later though, he brightened. But let us not speak of such dreary things. I have much better news for you. Oh. Hinata tilted her head. Oh yes. Orochimaru smiled. You'll like this one. I think I know how to awaken the Gokei. Chapter 56. Training Montage 9. Rasen against Time-2. So. Cheating time. Naruto flexed his arms. The clone of Kakashi he'd gotten watched him from a few meters away. What's the general process for creating new jutsu? I've never done this before in my life. Well, Kakashi mused. General process is make a Rasengan, try and put an elemental release into it, watch it fizzle out or explode, and try again. How long did you spend doing this? About 5 years on and off without much success. Eesh. Naruto winced. Well, I've gotta do it faster than Sasuke, so. He put his hands together. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Kakashi paled. Just a little, as over 200 shadow clones appeared in the clearing. I see at least your chakra has matured. Was that without the Kyuubi? Naruto's face fell a little. I haven't called on him in a while. We had this talk about control, and being responsible. I wanna be good enough without him first. Fair enough. Kakashi watched, as the small army began conjuring Rasengan. But yes, that should definitely bring the time down. So. Cheating time. Sasuke cracked his neck. The clone of Kakashi he'd gotten watched him from a few meters away. You do realize you're in serious trouble, right? He said. Naruto can summon about 50 shadow clones on his worst day. I'd bet my life savings you can't form a Rasengan with more than 10. He can't not do this faster than you. Yeah, but you see, Sasuke slowly summoned a Rasengan in his hand. I'm racing him. So I can't lose, or my honor will be irreparable damaged. Flawless logic. Kakashi deadpanned. But do you have an actual plan? Sasuke grinned. Sure. Sort of. Thing 1. My chakra control is still way better than Naruto's. I can master the precision elements way quicker than he can. But not 50 times quicker. No. But thing 2. Sasuke pointed to his eyes, the Sharingan is bullshit. You can't copy a technique you haven't completed yet. Kakashi pointed out. I don't need to. Sasuke raised a finger. This thing lets me see chakra in slow motion, which is hella helpful. He raised another, and every time I make any progress I can repeat it perfectly. So yeah, I think I'll be able to close the gap. Orochimaru gave Kabuto a sharp look, and the young man reluctantly left the room. Hinata walked over and perched on his bed. Does this mean your research has got results? Finally. You wound me. Orochimaru chuckled. Have I ever shown an absence of skill as a scientist? You took a chip out of my eye. Hinata deadpanned. Karen healed it. Orochimaru protested. Yes, but I don't like using Karen to heal myself, it's barbaric. Hinata sighed. Anyway, what are the results? Orochimaru smiled, and gestured to his bedside table. You know, normal people keep books in there. Maybe a pencil and paper. Hinata could already see what he meant. 3 cheers for the Byakugan. She reached in and pulled out the scientific-looking equipment, a tray of tweezers, microscopes, and 1 pot of green goop. Orochimaru began ordering them meticulously, sickly arms shaking but nonetheless precise and careful. I had to get it down to a cellular level for this to work. The change doesn't occur until you're dealing with holes. If there are missing connections with other necessary biological parts, it doesn't work. Here. Look. Hinata put her eye to the microscope. She saw a blob. This is me. One of your cells, yes. So far it's remained connected to your chakra network, from the supply you gave me earlier. You drained me while I was sleeping. Semantics, dear. Now, look what happens when I disconnect that flow. He flicked a light off. Hinata squinted. It died. Quite. Even if there was ever life without chakra, well, we can't go on without it now. But if you look into microscope number 2. Hinata sighed, and complied. It's another blob. Cell, darling, you're killing me. Now this time, when I disconnect it from your chakra, I'm going to substitute in mine. Hinata watched. There was a shift in color, though that may have just been the Byakugan showing her Orochimaru's different flavor, but otherwise, the cell didn't change. It's still alive, she noted. That's not revolutionary. Chakra can be transferred benignly. It's one of the most basic medical techniques. You know medical ninjutsu? Orochimaru asked. Some basics. If you can imagine, I used to hate the idea of violence. Hinata replied, drolly. You can pour in your own chakra to keep alive someone who's been exhausted or drained. It's true for anyone. It is. Orochimaru conceded. But keep looking. Hinata did. And frowned, as slowly. It's going white. An opal shell seemed to slowly cover the cell. Pure white. Orochimaru emphasized, grinning. A perfect white. They do this with anyone's chakra, and if I keep it alive through more creative means, it does the same. It becomes stronger, harder, lighter. A metamorphosis, or an evolution. You think this is it? Hinata asked. The Gokei. The Sharingan and Byakugan are two sides of the same coin. The former more offensive, the latter more defensive. If the one is evolved through murder, it stands to reason that the other requires a brush with death. Hinata couldn't help but shudder slightly. So I would have to survive without chakra. For almost 2 minutes, if my calculations are right. Orochimaru nodded. And your clan techniques provide the perfect way to do so. Hinata looked at him. The 128 palms is enough to cut off every chakra pathway in the body, if not every point. You want me to gentle fist myself? I admit, it will be highly dangerous. Orochimaru grimaced. I'd prefer to test it on other subjects first, but, well, we don't have any other Hyuga. He looked up at her, and Hinata found what just might have been genuine concern on his face. Or it was just the light. It's your choice, Hinata. I don't like the idea of risking you. Hinata sat back and thought. Whatever the process is, it happened to Neji. And I'm almost certain that it happened on accident, though nothing is impossible when it comes to him. Which means this has to be a situation that he endured. Hinata. Orochimaru tilted his head. We do it. She looked up, white eyes hard. I think I know when this happened to Neji. Hinata explained, a certain memory running incessantly through her head. This is it. We do it. Very well. Orochimaru sighed. I'll prep a room. Make sure your body is ready. And wasn't that a strange choice of words? I will. Shit. Boom. Kakashi cracked an eye open and sighed irritably. This was not the first time he had heard those two noises in that particular order. Nor the 5th, nor the 10th. Resigned to abandoning his nap, he sat up and stretched, looking across at Sasuke. The boy was laid out flat on his back. There was dust and burn marks all over his clothes. So, how's the new technique coming along? Kakashi asked, brightly. Fuck this. Sasuke orated, loudly, flailing his hands, wildly. What a helpful and informative statement. Sasuke sat up. This is not going well. The fire style just does not want to gel with the spinning. Whenever I try to set it alight, the flames just spin out wildly. I can't build up any real power in it. This week's problem. Fire spreads. Kakashi deadpanned. Other issues. Wind blows. Lightning jumps. Oh no. Last week's problem was that fire spreads. Sasuke sighed. I figured that instead of actual flames I could just superheat the chakra itself. Which worked. Sorta. Of course then it got way harder to stop it spinning out of control, so I had to try and tighten the curve against the heat, but if I don't make it hot enough it just collapses inwards instead of outwards. Still working on finding that equilibrium. But none of it matters. Sasuke held his hand out again. Kakashi watched, intrigued, as the Rasengan formed, then began to glow orange, then compressed inward so it was more cylindrical than spherical, like a kunai rapidly spinning about its center. None of it matters, Sasuke continued, focusing, because the heat doesn't do anything. At least not while it's contained in the spiral. I mean maybe the attack potency goes up a bit, but what's it gonna melt that the Rasengan wasn't already ripping through? Oh well done. You've cauterized the wound, you've made the technique less lethal. If I'm gonna impale someone with it I may as well use the Chidori. And, of course, there's the fact that the moment I let go of it, he threw the thing forwards. Kakashi, in a show of how much he cared for his student, immediately hid behind Sasuke's back as the jutsu unraveled a moment out of his hand. Boom, It went, as a wave of hot air washed over both of them. The heat just dissipates into the surroundings. Sasuke finished, wincing a little. And it's a lot of heat, and it burns you if you get too close, but that doesn't help me much. Oh, wonderful, I've heated up the back of the man I just ran through and also burned my own hand. I'm almost considering giving it up as a bad job. It's possible you could modify it to make some sort of fire punch jutsu. Kakashi suggested. Lower cost, less chakra control needed, useful for a lot of people in the village. I could. Sasuke agreed. But I don't want one of those. I want a jutsu scarier than the Rasengan. Then you know what you have to do. Kakashi shrugged. Be careful, slow, methodical, carefully figure out. Come up with something stupid to make it work. You're right. Sasuke slapped him on the shoulder. Thanks. You've helped a lot. Why do I even bother? My problem is, Naruto decided, I can't control the shape, the chakra, and the nature transformation at the same time. Well, you know what you have to do. Kakashi shrugged. B. Use more shadow clones. Naruto exclaimed. Great idea. Sensei, you're the best. Why do I even bother? You're crazy. Karen hissed. Hinata had cornered her in the corridor to explain the situation. You do realize that Orochimaru wants to steal my body? Yes. Of course. Hinata shrugged. She didn't seem too concerned. You're going to paralyze yourself and sit there at his mercy while your body gets a new power-up and his old body is on the verge of death. Karen summarized. Hinata. The stars are aligning for him to take your body. He probably thinks it's Christmas. Only a madwoman would go into that room. And I'm going in anyway. Hinata shrugged. I'll take precautions. We could just run. I'll provide the chakra. Karen paused. Hinata was giving her a look. You'd already thought of that. The redhead realized. You're planning something. If you could, Hinata responded, not confirming or denying it. I'd like it if you found yourself nearby at the time of the procedure. I may need some support, during or afterwards. I'll be there. Karen promised. Hinata. Don't die, okay. I won't. The Hyuga smiled. I can't kill Neji if I'm dead, can I? Not to mention you promised your boyfriend. Karen teased. Hinata, predictably, blushed heavily. Right. And that. Sasuke sat, musing, at a ramen stand in central Konoha. Outside, someone was handing out balloons to children. He watched, bemused, as they pumped more and more air into one of them, but then the pressure inside became too much, and it popped, startling all the children. Sasuke's eyes widened. Yo, I have an idea. The room was dark. Hinata knew this was not for any particular purpose. Orochimaru just really liked it when his rooms were dimly lit by weak, flickering candle flames or ominously glowing coals. She wasn't quite sure whether it was just an aesthetic choice or, more amusingly, something about his snake eyes didn't like bright lights. But either way, it was dark, and she stood alone with her master in a locked room with a single bed against one wall. It wasn't as weird as it looked. Shadow clone jutsu. She muttered, summoning a copy of herself. Are you certain about this? Orochimaru asked. He was uncharacteristically concerned, his usual unflappable nature seemingly having abandoned him. Which was odd, because it was very unlike him to be actually worried about her. I'm certain. She nodded, stretching her arms to prevent any long-lasting damage from the paralysis. Let's get it over with. Right. Orochimaru sighed. He straightened, and refocused on her. Go. The shadow clone fell into stance. A successful 32 palms would prevent most opponents from using any jutsu, and paralyze them for a short time. A 64 palms would completely prevent all chakra usage, and paralyze the opponent for hours. It was the most common technique for adults to use in battle. But this was different. It would require the complete halt of all chakra flow through the body. All 361 points would need to be rendered useless. Some could be hit in clusters, some would be eliminated when their neighbors went down, but this would still require the highest level technique most Hyuga masters learned. 8 trigrams, 128 palms. A technique that would completely shut down all body functions, blind you, and kill you inside of 2 minutes. The books speculated as to what killed you first: the heart stopping, the stomach and liver breaking apart, or the brain running out of oxygen. Hinata might be about to find out. She exhaled, and nodded to her clone. The hits thudded into her. She had to deliberately quash her instincts to block, and was glad that quickly enough all pain was numbed entirely. Her body felt cold, and then she couldn't feel it at all. She lost all sense of up or down, but heard something that might have been her body being lowered onto the bed by her clone. She hasn't swallowed her tongue, which is good, came her clone's muffled voice. Chakra flow is completely down, administering support now. Chakra poured into her, and that she could feel. Her brain lost some of the sluggishness it had taken on. Body functions, stabilizing, reported her clone. No unusual behavior from her cells as of yet. Excellent, came Orochimaru's voice. There was a shuffle, Orochimaru was shuffling, and then a sigh. All right then, let's get the horrible betrayal out of the way. There was a whoosh, and then the chakra flow cut off, and then there was a sudden influx of chakra as her clone popped, and Hinata got the memories of Orochimaru darting out to bite the clone in the neck, and then there was a poof as the shadow clone she had disguised as a candle appeared and attacked, and then there was a brief scuffle, but the clone couldn't use the gates or the curse mark, and then there was another influx of chakra and another set of memories, and then there was silence. No more chakra flowed into her body, and her brain began to throb. I may have miscalculated slightly, she thought, dimly. There was another sigh, and she heard Orochimaru come to lean on her bed. So, he began. Let's talk. Karen crept through the corridors of the hideout. It was a very scary thing to do. She knew that she should probably be walking normally, that it would be less suspicious than creeping, but she couldn't help but creep, because she was betraying Orochimaru and that was a terrifying thing to do and the person she was doing it for was currently locked in a room with him. Going somewhere. She, eep, D and stood straight, looking forwards. Kabuto was leant against the wall, smiling that asshole smile of his. Kabuto. She acknowledged. I was, the only thing down this corridor is Orochimaru's chambers. He interrupted, standing up and placing himself in the center of the hallway. He has given orders not to be disturbed. I have been given different orders. Karen replied, boldly. Really? Kabuto looked over his glasses at her, satire thick on his voice. By Orochimaru. No. She glared. By Lady Hyuga. Kabuto, if anything, smiled wider. Perfect. You know he told me she might try something like this. And I have permission to kill you if she has. You can try. Karen replied, bravely, falling into a fighting stance. And then she was punched in the stomach. She blinked and Kabuto was there and she was thrown backwards onto the floor, gasping for air. Cute. Kabuto laughed. You do realize I'm actually really strong, right? Stronger than your average jonin. Like I could probably kill Terumi May's fodder though. Karen was able to cough. Fair enough. Kabuto grabbed her by the throat and slammed her into the wall. Karen gasped. I may have miscalculated slightly. He's going to kill her. You know that, right? The medic grinned sadistically. That bitch is going to get absorbed by him, and I get to kill you in the few minutes it takes him. He leaned in close to her face. Really? It's like my birthday came early. Karen managed a smile. I thought Hinata put your birthday last month. He glared at her, and she darted forwards and bit his nose. Hard. He howled, but she didn't let go, tearing a chunk out of it, and when he stumbled backwards she thrust her hands forwards and launched out the adamantine chakra chains. The golden links wrapped him up and slammed him against the opposing wall. Biting. She spat out the remnants of his nose. People do it to me so often, you'd think it'd be more tasty. She took off down the corridor. One turn, another, and then Orochimaru's room was in the wall to her left and she reached out for it. There were two sounds, and Karen screamed. She collapsed to the floor as the pair of kunai buried themselves perfectly into both her Achilles tendons, and turned to see a livid Kabuto stalking towards her. You. He seethed, blood dripping from his face. I am going to bite your throat out and use your corpse in my experiments. Sufficiently terrified, Karen scrambled backwards along the floor. She shot out some more chains but Kabuto casually swerved out of the way. He got closer, and then he was only about a meter away. Which was when the door to Orochimaru's door exploded outwards between them. Both froze. Stood in the doorway, one hand outstretched, was a small girl with blue hair. Her eyes were white. Pure white. Swirls of opal twisted out from them, onto her forehead and out to her cheeks. She took in the scene in front of her and smiled. Master. Kabuto tried. Afraid not. Replied Hinata Hyuga. She walked out to stand between him and Karen. He gulped. What did you? Isn't it obvious? She shrugged. I killed him. Kabuto looked, shocked, into the room. Through the doorway, all he could see was a few dead snakes on the floor. But, Karen watched Kabuto's tone shift. The redhead. He tried. She was about to. You are trying to lie to me. Hinata stopped him, calmly. I can see it. Don't try. Kabuto wisely shut up. So. You. Karen tried to think of what to say. Hinata turned and smiled at her. That's right. I've unlocked the Goke. She looked back at Kabuto. You. Fix what you just did to my friend. I'm going to get Jugo out of his cage. Think it's about time I paid my cousin a visit. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video, as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.